Hey there, comic friends. I'm Travis. It's Comic Roundtable, and I have the usual crew with me. My good friends Rez and Mike. How's it going?
Good.
Boom!
Excellent.
Excellent.
Boom! Excellent. Yeah. See, Rez needs some sort of catchphrase too. That way, when we come on, I can just do everyone's catchphrase for them. And whatnot. I've got lots of people's bastards. You know, hi, I am Mercy, and this is Mercy's little show. I mean, I've got them all. I can go for days, but at any rate, we're here to talk some comics. For anybody who actually watches the channel beyond the Comic Roundtable, I didn't get my comic books until today, and I got them late today, so I've been like trying to read my 23 comics. I fell 7 issues short, but that's, I think, pretty good. How much of these comics do I remember speed reading them? I don't know, so we'll find out as we talk. it could be an adventure. So we flipped the imaginary coin, and we just decided we didn't care. We're going to talk DC Comics first. So what do we want to talk about first, DC wise?
Cave Carson.
Cave Carson has a cybernetic eye, but does he really?
Well, not anymore. So they should have put Cave Carson used to have a cybernetic eye.
Right. Well, I mean, he's still connected to it, though, right? Or he thinks he is anyway.
In a way, like, but his senses are so off because he's missing that eye. Like he'll like say, "Everybody move, get out now." Then it's just like right when you say it.
Right. It's like it gives him the precognition that they're gonna get attacked, but it's like a nanosecond before it happens. So he grabs his bloody eye socket and goes, "Oh no, run!" Bang, and then everybody gets pounded. So yeah.
Or Cave Carson has sometimes a cybernetic eye.
Right. A not very precognitive eye, that's for sure.
Yeah.
So they've slipped into other dimensions and other Earths. They are like I think they decide they're chasing his old employer, but the old employer, of course, is kind of going after him too, right?
Yeah, it seems like he's chasing that one guy because apparently he's developed a cult of some sort where people's eyes are now like cybernetic, but like
their flesh is being ripped away. So they're laying around, and this giant tentacled monster basically has taken over. That was in a few issues ago, was inside this giant crystal. They're fighting over the giant crystal. The giant crystal gets cracked open, and we find out there's this alien intelligence millennia ago had crashed on Earth, and of course got buried way down deep into the ground. And the people who live under the ground have known it was there, and they kind of use its power source to run their city and all this kind of stuff. Well, some of the up above ground people, Carson's prior employers, they found out it was there, and they crack it open because they want that power source, of course, for themselves. Well, they release the alien, and the alien is kind of taken over. They kind of worship the alien thing. So it's this giant flying brain looking like, well, here's kind of a picture of it. It's this brain looking thing with these big, long, I don't know, acidy tentacles that grow crystals on it. And the crystals, they're actually scraping the crystals off at one point, and they're snorting them and getting high on them. This book has lots of, has a decent amount of swearing in it for being a, kind of DC book. They have no problem with dropping the F-bomb. They're snorting drugs. The heroes are on hallucinogens half the time too. It's nuts. But it swipes its tentacles across the people's eyes, and it almost like it burns the flesh away. But it makes this kind of visor with these floating eye socket eyeball kind of a thing. And it's this like zombie army. So most of the people are all zombified. There's a few that aren't. Those people seem to be in the background. You see them getting corralled around. Yeah, see, here's our main bad guy, Jonathan, or whatever his name is.
Yeah.
And it's his dad. He calls that big tentacle thing his dad. And literally, they scrape the crystals off. Here's the crystals, right? It tells them to snort. And they're literally snorting. See, he is snorting the crystals in.
So crazy, right?
Yeah, and I mean, and the guy reminds me of Dennis Hopper. Hopper from Blue Velvet or something, where he's just totally whacked out. He's just like, yeah, and he's saying all this crazy stuff about, oh, we're gonna have a wedding, or what's the Spanish Sesionista, where the 15th, your 15th birthday is a big big celebration. We're gonna have one of those as he's snorting this stuff and whatnot. Just totally nuts. Well, they're in this like universe, and they're basically decided instead of just taking over the Earth and universe that we started out in, we all assume is our normal hero universe. They're now decided they figured out how they can jump between Earths, and they're gonna take them all over. They're gonna make this giant zombie army for whatever reason to get high and have power, I guess, kind of a thing. The art in it is just amazing. The coloring, I think. It's just got some great stuff. Yeah, here's the Zot right after he warns them. Oh no, watch out! They all get blasted.
I really like Cave Carson more than I expected to be honest. It's just really wacky and crazy. I like now this issue we see the daughter bonding with her dad even more. Like she said to him, "I'm coming very dangerously close to thinking you're cool."
Right, because he's like, they meet this guy because in this alternate world, so everything's not exactly right, but it's kind of right. So they meet this guy, and it's like he goes, "Well, who is this guy?" Well, Bartholomew. He's my geological mentor, basically my dealer, and a what was the other thing they called him? I can't remember exactly what it was. It was some other.
Some kind of
psychedelic guru. Yeah, he's my geological mentor, my producer, and my psychedelic guru. And the daughter stand behind him, and she's like, "Whoa, Dad, I'm getting dangerously close to thinking you're cool." Which, of course, any dad, it's one of your attempts is to help your kids think you're cool. So it's just not so. Yeah, so he's meeting his mentor who, in his world, supposedly shot himself and killed himself back in the 90s or something like that, kind of a thing. So it's reality isn't quite right, but it's kind of right. But no, it's this issue made me really excited. I've been enjoying the book. This issue made me really excited. It's kooky and weird, but it feels like it's moving someplace. Whereas I love Doom Patrol, but Doom Patrol is kooky and weird, and sometimes I wonder if it's actually moving the needle forward and actually moving the story someplace. Sometimes this has got lots of action in it, and it's always moving, but it's nuts. I mean, it's nuts. So that's.
I enjoy it too. You're right. It's always very action packed. Like, it's always so much movement. Sometimes I gotta really look at the panels to see what's going on. I'll find myself reading it first and then going back and studying the artwork to see, like, I don't know if you do that, but I sometimes when something is really, really action packed, I'll read it first and then go back and then look at it because it'll be too much just to absorb, on first impression, pretty much, or first read.
Totally agree with you on
that. Definitely. When you get these, great pages like this double page spread with this the atomic symbol there, and the coloring really visually does a good job of moving you around the page, even though it's kind of got a panel border between the things. My screen isn't picking up the colors all that well. Nick Flaherty doing colors, just amazing. This brilliant, bright, kind of crazy, palette kind of thing is just, I don't know. I just really like it. Really, really fun book. I'm really, really, really digging it. I'm going to take a quick break. In the comments is Comics and Gore. And I just want to say congratulations to him. He's watching the show with his brand new baby daughter, which is just awesome. Yep. Congratulations on that. All excited for you. Kids are great. Once you get kids, now is going to be the goal of trying to convince them that all the stuff you love, you hope they love too. Yeah. you gotta cross your fingers and it's fun. It's fun. It's a fun adventure. So congratulations and I hope you're looking forward to the adventure that is kids, because they are a blast. So awesome.
Very cute baby pictures on Twitter. Yeah, definitely.
Yes, for sure. So anything else you want to say about Cave Carson?
This particular issue, for some reason, I kind of felt like I was missing out on something a tad bit. Like, I felt like I should have reread something. It seemed like it skipped forward pretty fast after the last book, which I know I read. I had it felt like I missed something.
Yeah, I agree. I had to go back and look because I didn't remember I didn't realize, because this starts out on an alternate Earth. They're putting flowers on a gravestone that should be their his wife's gravestone, but she's not buried there or anything like that. Questionable whether or not she's even dead on this world. And I'm like, whoa, how did we get on a different Earth? So I had to go back to look to see. Oh, that's right. That whole this kind of weird zapping portal ripped open and they all went diving through it, kind of thing. I had forgotten about that at the very end of the last issue to know that's where we're at. So I had to do that too, because that did feel like an abrupt jump of sorts.
But you see what I'm talking about? The action, all I tell is how it's so action heavy that you can easily skip over something, forget, and have to reread. Which, I mean, like, I guess it's one negative to a degree with the story, because like there's so much that goes on so quickly that you can easily, I guess, put something in the back burner and forget about it completely, you know? Mm-hmm. And you won't know until the house is burnt down, but, you know.
I really enjoyed the issue. I like the action pack. For me, other than that element, I was really excited reading this whole comic. It was a hoot. I would be, whereas as far as like, I don't know that I would. Everybody should go out and read this. Now I'm sold on it to go. Yeah, somebody asked me, oh, what do you think of Cave Carson? Would you recommend getting it in trade or whatever? I'd be like, yeah, I get it. It's a blast.
Yeah. Definitely, it puts a pep in your step when you're reading a lot of books. It's like one of those books, like after you read a Draggy book, you add that Cave Carson, and it's definitely, kind of livens some things up for sure.
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. Because it's just bang, bang, bang kind of a thing. So yeah. For sure. All right. What else, Mike? What'd you read?
Wildstorm was the one that I picked up,
yes.
And this one really feels like the most.
Oh, hold on a second. I want to see the alternate cover there. Let's talk.
Oh.
Yeah. Let me take it out the bag. It's all shiny. It's still shiny.
Is that the
There we go. It's the guy with the mask on his face. The one.
Right. Yeah. It's So. Oh, who did the art on that one? Is that the Jim Lee one?
Yeah.
I can't tell.
It looks a little.
It doesn't look like Jim Lee though, does it?
It looks more so like very sketchy. Let me see. I'm looking in the book because
Jason Howard.
Jason Howard, yeah, because it looked a little too indie-ish to kind of be.
Right, not Jim Lee, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Jason Howard, Jim Lee, Scott. Yeah.
All right. Sorry, Mike. What are you gonna say?
Oh no, it was just, it very much reminded me of Lost. I mean, there is always more questions than answers, and even as we start to kind of get wrapped up, I mean, now this is kind of explaining what happened from the first two issues, or at least the continuation of the story. But even as it keeps telling us, I keep getting more questions. Nothing is being nailed down, but it keeps me so interested. Because of the art, it always makes me also feel like I'm reading Clean Room.
Yes.
Because almost all the characters look a lot alike, and then the weirdness of how that book started was like this. So. Yeah,
I agree. Definitely. Hunt's Davis Hunt's like noses, for instance. I think he has like 3 noses, and so that's mixed amongst those characters. So you're right. After reading like 12 issues or whatever that we read of Clean Room, it's like, okay, I recognize all those noses, and all the girls have these kind of generally these kind of cute pert little noses, and yeah. I mean, I still really like the art, but definitely that's definitely a thing once you, and because that, I don't know, Mike, is that your first exposure to this artist? It is mine.
Clean Room, yes.
Clean Room, right?
Yeah.
So that's, everything goes back to that kind of a thing. So I'm sure if this was the first thing I had read, then if he did anything else, I would be going, oh, it looks like Wildstorm kind of a stuff.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, even though it is continuing the storyline, of course, we get the new part with the weatherman, being introduced right at the end. And the way they kept cutting out, like as he looked through the window, and then that cuts to a small space station, which keeps getting bigger and bigger. That reminded me of Lost, like when they show, the hatch, and then it's they keep
stuff.
Yes.
I love it.
So it's just things like that where it's like, oh, it's just amazing to see that the story is there. Was it originally only 12 across the top, or was it always 24?
It was always 24.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
So I mean, it does make me feel good to really think that we're going to get basically 24 issues, 2 years worth maybe.
Right. Right. And I can't remember. I'm trying to remember now. Reading back when this first started, they were first promoting it. When did they say that the next Wildstorm part of the the Wildstorm imprint was going to come out? Was it at 12 months? Or are they going to wait until they were almost at the end of this? I can't imagine them waiting clear to the end.
No, I would think it would be, you're right, 12. So.
See, that's what, but I remember them talking, more or less saying that, look, we wanted to make sure this was really completely cemented in before we did any spin-offs of it, kind of a thing. So, but I know they plan to. Yeah, and the Weatherman, you mentioned the Weatherman. He was actually in a few issues ago, very briefly. He walks in and scares the crap out of the woman who's like running the ground thing. I mean, so we did. I mean, we don't see much of him, not enough to know that he's the Weatherman or anything about him. We don't even know why he's called the Weatherman. Just that's what they refer to him as. And clearly he puts on a charade. I mean, as far as even for the people who work with him, except for that, like his secretary, everybody else, he kind of acts like he's this grumpy badass, and then after everyone's gone and no one's watching him, then he relaxes and wants drinks and that sort of thing and whatnot. But yeah, I really like the book. I think it does a great job of kind of giving us, like you said, small answers and more questions, and doing it in such a smooth kind of a way as it transitions from scene to scene, for me anyway, to make me continue to be curious about that stuff. But at the same time, okay, I'm ready to move on to this next part. You're gonna tell me this part. Okay, that's cool too. Okay, now we're moving on to something else. Oh, okay. I'm curious about that too, kind of thing. Because it moves between, like 4 or 5 venues really kind of in this thing. And
I don't know the characters previously, so I am slowly starting to pick up on their names, and the looks stay so perfectly consistent. That's the one thing with this artist.
Right.
Is I definitely know each person when I see them. So.
Yeah. Grifter. Yeah. It's probably the character most of us kind of know, the guy with the red mask, and one way to start a comic out right back in the middle of the action, so people are getting their brains blown out and whatnot. You're like, wow, immediately.
But of course, they haven't called him Grifter. It's still Cole. So that's how I know him. Yeah.
Right. So yeah, I mean, super excited to see what all is gonna happen and whatnot in it. The guy with the styrofoam cup or I don't know if it's styrofoam or not. That he kind of cooked away there at that one point. It's like, but you were talking about that one scene where we don't know where they're at. We just know there's someplace. The Weatherman shows up in this place, and it's clearly a some sort of secreted, vaulted kind of a thing. And he wants a skylight open up. They open the skylight, and Mike talked about this scene where it kind of feels like, I love the art in that. Just the slow, here's a panel of a little room they're in. The next panel is, it's, he's in like some sort of little module. Then you back up further, and it's that module attached to a bigger module. Oh, well, they're clearly in space, and then it backs up to even a bigger, and then it backs up even to, just to give you the slow pan back that you would get if you were like watching a TV show or a movie, to get this, just to give you a scope of how big this thing is that I'm assuming nobody knows except for these corporations, these kind of government corporation things exists. So that whole pan, that whole, from this little sky dome here thing, and then there's the dome, and there's the dome, and okay, about here I've lost it. I think the dome is right there. Yeah. Kind of a thing. And then it's this massive 2-page spread. There's the Earth, and I'm not sure where the dome's at on that. I think it might be there, but I'm not. Yeah, but just cool stuff. And the comments are saying, Jocko's saying that, and he loves all the old Easter eggs. So clearly, if you're somebody who knows all this old stuff, maybe there's a bunch of other things in there that are fun too. I don't know.
I like the banner between the old man and the woman. I thought when he had when he said he wanted an hour alone with her, I thought, okay, they're gonna go, get in.
That was my first thought too.
I was like, okay, we're about to see some sexy. But then they just talked and they just joked around, and he was just being a mean old man. And it was just a mean old man. And she called him racist, and she's like, you racist homophobe. You would love to have some personal slaves so you could have your endless supply of organs. And I'm like, and he kept saying, you humans, you know, I hate humans stuff. And I'm thinking, okay, is he an alien? Like, what is he?
Well, he must be.
Yeah, because you see how there's lots of a lot of technology that just like the one guy who was about to fall out the building and Spica, she saved him, Angela Spica. When she saved him, we found out that he was an alien. So I'm like, what's going on here? You know?
Right. And what we haven't seen a whole lot of, other than a brief picture of that kind of UFO looking thing. Of course, there's the entertainer Voodoo, who's still out there. We saw her like first issue, maybe briefly in the second issue, I think. And we haven't touched back. And this is issue 4. Last issue, I don't think she was in it at all. You know, she was talking about some alien invasion that no one knew about happened, that she kind of knew about it, that it touched her in some way. So there's all that kind of stuff. Yeah. And the secretary calling him racist, it wasn't because, he doesn't like, blacks or Chinese or whatever, or he's white and that's all that's important. It was, I don't like humans. They're all stinky, gross. They smell. I mean, he kept talking about how gross they all smell and everything.
He was a xenophobe, though, like more like to that degree. Because I was like, when she said he was racist, but he was just talking about the way he talked about humans, you could tell he wasn't human. I feel like they used the wrong verbiage. And so, like it wasn't the right words to use in that case, but it was still funny. And it was just, and that's a small hiccup. That is just a little something that bothered me, seeing that we see that Warren Ellis is such a smart writer, and usually writes in such a way where it comes off sometimes babble because it's so hard fiction-y and so scientific and so intelligent. But, when you catch up something like that, you're like, oh, okay, what's going on here? Are you slipping, Ellis?
Well, so then the question is, did he screw up, or was that the did he do it on purpose, right?
Yeah.
Well, and I think he did it to keep playing around with the idea. He doesn't want to just state out loud that the guy is alien. I think he really wanted to make people assume it's old white racism.
Yeah, that could be it for sure. I knew the guy. I knew they were referring to something more so his hate for humans in its entirety. But I thought the banter in its entirety was just funny.
Oh yeah, it definitely was. Especially after how like I said, he walks in, he's all angry and just this nasty old guy that everybody seems to be afraid of, and then he's like, you find out that he's just being a cranky old bastard to be a cranky old bastard. Yeah.
Yeah.
I appreciate people like that, I guess. So
are you looking at me? Well, don't.
Yeah, that's right.
Don't look at me. Can you imagine saying that to someone? Oh my God.
Well, and the whole, you just love them to be all slaves and the organ harvesting and all that kind of stuff. So clearly there's a whole scale of stuff that we puny humans don't get yet. So I'm looking forward to.
I'm pretty sure Danny Burgers are what they're using the organs for.
Yeah. There you are. Yeah, so I don't know. It'll be cool. Like I said, I really like the comic. And I like each issue more and more. Yeah. I'm more excited about it. I mean, the first issue I was like, oh, this is interesting. But it felt kind of a little spastic, and now it kind of feel like it's hitting a groove, or I've read enough of it to get a sense of how the book is going to be laid out.
He's up to you now?
Yeah.
But could you imagine having Doom Patrol crossover where they have the Danny Burgers?
It would be awesome.
Storm.
It would be awesome.
I would love that.
Don't see it happening, but it would be cool.
A girl could dream.
Yep, because I'd love to see a Warren Ellison written Doom Patrol. So yeah, well, alrighty. What else? What else we got DC wise? Anything?
I know you kind of don't really see it. DC really.
Oh no, that's cool. I haven't read it, but you can talk about it.
Astro City issue number 44. Well, this issue just pretty much had these two female superheroes. They were, fighting, and somehow this one cat kind of interfered with their fighting, and she kind of this one heroine, she took the cat in, and they just thought it was a plain old cat. Later on, throughout different events where we had these superheroes, these villains trying to take over the world by having this one scientist of some sort do something to a device to kind of trigger some kind of event, and they had his daughter hostage. The cat pretty much saved the day. It just kept going through different situations, like disappearing through the wall. And I think the heroines eventually caught on to this cat and that it was not an ordinary cat. And they named, well, one of the girls named the cat Kitty Hawk. So they were like, well, is Kitty Hawk now part of the team? And the other girl was like, we're not going to name her Kitty Hawk. They're like, no, she's not part of the team. And then she disappears somewhere, and then they're like, okay, Kitty Hawk. It was a really cute story. You know, I like Astro City for the self-containment little stories. Like, you don't have to really be on board with from the very beginning, which is really nice. And it has a very old school feel. This one for sure felt like that. It felt like one of those. I mean, like, I don't know. I had the same feeling when I read an old school Commandy comic. Like, you have those small little short stories. They may not be necessarily about something super significant, but it is a story. You enjoy it and you take it for what it is. I feel like when I read Astro City, there's nothing that's bad that comes out of it. I just feel like I read something, I enjoy it, and I go on to the next one, next issue.
Yeah. It's very jump on friendly, just about anywhere. If you read it long term, all these little stories enrich this kind of, you know, it's kind of its own kind of unique world. You know, kind of thing, its own slice of a take on a city that has superheroes in it. But yeah, it's cool that way in the fact that, and here lately it's really been that way. I had been reading Astro City when it went under Vertigo. I read it for a while, and then he was writing these longer arcs, like 4 or 5 issue arcs, and that was just hard for me to read in single issues. It wasn't that it was a bad story; it just really kind of trudged along. So I dropped it. And then started picking it back up again when Discount Comic Book Service made it as part of a Vertigo bundle, and I was getting it 50% off. So I just got it because it made all the books cheaper to get that way. And I've really been enjoying it since doing that, because it's gone back to a 1 or 2 issue stories, and that's what it always is all the way along. So it is very, you know, you have a spare, you know, $4 you want to drop on a comic book. It's something you can easily pick up generally and not have to be invested in long term whatever, so you can just kind of read whatever the story it is. And like I said, if you are invested in the world, each of these little stories adds to the richness of the entire, you know, the entire world itself. It's smartly done, and like I said, I've really been enjoying the last year of it or so for sure.
Who's working on that?
That's Kurt Busiek is written, and the artist is typically Brent Anderson. This issue didn't, though. This issue had Leonardi on it, I guess. And of course, Ross does all the covers. You know, he's done every cover of Astro City ever. You know, Astro City is a comic that's been shopped around to a number of different. It was a wild. Before it became,
it was Image too.
It was an Image book. It was going to go to Wildstorm, and Wildstorm actually had their own imprint. I sat at one of my first cons I went to. They had just announced that it was going to be part of that. You know, that's what it was going to be printed under. And then, of course, in the next 6 months, they closed down, you know, Wildstorm imprint. So then it took a while to get it imprinted under, you know, under Vertigo. So occasionally you get a guest artist, and I'm sure the reason we get the guest artist is because they want to keep it monthly, because it's a corporate comic, so they keep it monthly in that sense. Back in the day when it wasn't a corporate comic, they just didn't put it out. If Brent Anderson wasn't around to do it, they just didn't do it, which led to some really long layoffs, because he had significant heart problems, I believe, at one point. And I mean, like, the book was gone for years before it came out for him to get back healthy enough to be able to actually produce enough comic, if I remember correctly how that worked out and whatnot. So like I said, occasionally for this, they get a guest artist. I like the art in this guest artist issue, though.
Yeah, I mean, I like the previous issue better, but yeah, it was sufficient. It was effective.
Yeah, so
it wasn't bad at all. It was just different. Like, I immediately opened up. I was like, "Whoa, that's not my usual illustration."
Right.
Like, it wasn't bad at all.
Yeah, for sure. Alrighty, Mike, did you get any other DC comics this week?
No, I was light on DC.
Oh, boy. So, did anybody else read Batman? Oh man. Okay, so this is issue 23, The Brave and the Mold. You know, instead of The Brave and the Bold, they'll play on this is a one-shot comic. Arts by Gerards, the guy who does Sheriff of Babylon. Did the Cat and the Bat issue, those 2 issues that were Catwoman centric issues a while back in between arcs. So him and Tom King have a synergy together as far, in my opinion, as far as them doing a book. This one shot is a great comic. This is an issue that makes me go, oh my God, Tom King can write a Batman book. What the hell is he doing with this other stuff? This even has Kite Man in it, and I liked it. I love that cover of Batman getting all tangled up in vines or whatever, and then the butterflies flying and stuff, and it all kind of this wonderful green hue. So of course, great art in it. So in this issue, some guy's been murdered. The opening scene is a nine panel page of this guy is singing a song, and slowly singing a song and gets shot in the head. He's sitting in a chair and somebody executes him, gun in both hands, and you're seeing it from the shooter's standpoint. So you see the two guns, they go pop pop, shoot the guy in the head, and he's dead. And then the next scene is Batman and Gordon standing over the body. They're on the 48th floor. No one broke into the place. There's it's one of those kind of mysteries. Person dies in a room with no doors or windows. All there is a melted puddle. How did it happen? Kind of a thing. And while they're talking, there's like a leftover, I don't know, lettuce sandwich or a burrito or something like that. And Swamp Thing slowly grows out of this rotting vegetation that's there, and is suddenly behind them. Gordon about loses his breakfast as suddenly this big Swamp Thing's behind him. And Batman doesn't even flinch. It's like, hey, Alex, what's going on? Casual conversation with this guy that's dead. The guy's like, and Swamp Thing, they write him very, not the chatty Swamp Thing. He's more like the old fashioned Swamp Thing in a sense that he doesn't like, he talks in more broken sentences and whatnot. He's not just a casual. Clearly he's part of the Green. He's not a human per se. And so they kind of portray him more that way. And you find out this guy that's been killed is his dad. It's Swamp Thing's original dad, which he never knew really. After he was much longer after he was born, the dad kind of ran off. He had a stepdad that actually raised him, but he has met this guy in the past. So we get this whole, here's the original Swamp Thing's, dad's been murdered in some weird hit kind of a thing, because it's like, the guy was shot in the head twice. The first time clearly killed him. Why was he shot twice? No one knows, kind of thing. So we get Batman and him kind of going through this adventure of trying to figure out who it is that did it and why. And they figure it out. They get to the end of it. They find the person that did it. Something very un-Batman-like happens. The Batman did not want to have happen. And because I don't want to spoil it for anybody who might want to go out and pick this up after the fact. But Batman and Swamp Thing have a conversation at the beginning of the book, kind of about what is life? Do you live and then die and that's it? And Swamp Thing's like, no, it's not dust to dust. You don't live and die. I mean, you live, you die, you're put back in, into the ground, into the world, and you live again, kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And there's some give and take with Batman over that conversation, if that really is how it all works and whatnot. You're not sure what to make of it. You get to the end of it, that conversation comes back up again, and Batman's left at the end of it kind of raging about what happens and the answers that he got or didn't get. But one of the questions at the beginning of it is why is Swamp Thing there? What's the draw? I mean, it's not like he really knows this dad. He's enough Swamp Thing now and not human that he doesn't really particularly care about humans as individuals anymore, kind of thing. So what was the draw? He doesn't even know why he's drawn there. You kind of find out that maybe Batman's the reason that he was drawn there. It's more about Batman's needs and parents and fathers and that sort of thing than it has anything to do with Swamp Thing's needs. So it makes for a really good, kind of punch you in the face at the end of it, I felt like, story that Tom King's pretty good at writing, at least from my experience with The Vision and with Sheriff of Babylon, where he can kind of set you up at the beginning of a story, and then by the end of the story, gut punch you in a good way, you know, kind of a thing. But it's a great comic. It looks great. I was really excited about it. It's this kind of stuff that makes me go, damn it, give the guy. I don't know what you're doing to him on a normal Batman comic, but let him do his thing. And this is a great double page spread of Bruce and Swamp Thing having a cup of tea while Alfred is sweeping up the dirt and leaves that keep blowing off of Swamp Thing. It's hilarious.
So
yes. And while they're sitting there, you know, Bruce is drinking his tea or his coffee. Swamp Thing has got his palm out and he literally makes a teacup out of leaves and drinks some nectar stuff. It's cool. While they're having this conversation about stuff going on. It was a great issue. I was really excited to read a Batman issue. I thought was really fun. Single issue story. Good stuff.
I gotta totally get that. Like, it just sounds so damn good.
Yeah, it was. And like I said, I like the kind of the psychodrama, psychological drama of it for Batman and his, you know, looking once again at the whole death of parents thing, but from kind of a little bit different, you know, avenue and whatnot. So, yeah, good stuff.
So did that jazz you up, of course, then for the Mr. Miracle comic?
Yes, I am so stoked for that. Oh, I'm just looking forward to it. Looking forward to it a lot.
That's coming out. That's the one we're gonna order for this solicits. Or is it?
I don't know that it's in this month for us to order, Rez. I have no idea.
Okay.
I haven't. So I think I have to do this weekend. I haven't looked to see what else in there. I don't know if it's this weekend or if it's this month or it'll be next month that'll actually show up for us. Because usually announcements are a month earlier than what we're actually ordering for. Because previews, technically, what you're seeing in previews isn't what we're ordering this month. It's actually going to be the next month. So if you have this month's preview catalog, it's 3 months out and we're ordering 2 months out. Kind of a thing. So yes, I'm super excited about that. I'm more excited about that than I am a second season of Sheriff of Babylon, which clearly this is going to push back the Sheriff of Babylon, a second season, brother, because I question whether or not there needs to be or there should be a second season of Sheriff of Babylon. So this whole news story, I'm just super excited about, because I think Tom King can really write if he's given the ability to just kind of, you know, have his own vision and do his own thing as far as that goes. And he seems to have this really good working relationship with Gerard. So that just, I'm excited for that to, you know, to see that happen. And I love that. I love Mr. Miracle as a character too, on top of it. So it's just, you know, more and more good stuff. Really excited for. So very much so. Rez, you got any other DC books?
Nope.
So dude named David Raccoonus, I believe that's who that is, right? David is saying that he thought it was coming in August as well. So it'll be next month's solicitations for us, Russ.
Okay. So sure, I was gonna be getting it.
Okay. So I will briefly talk a few DC comics. First, we'll this damn thing. I know some people are having lots of fun. They think it's great and whatnot. This is Flash number 22. Love the cover. Love that cover. It's, you know, the modern version of the old Flash, you know, burning a hole through a classic cover of the original Flash. That's cool. It's a super sexy cover. And I'm sure that the lenticular cover, if you spent the money on it, is pretty damn awesome too. If it's flashing back and forth, you know, between old and new like that and whatnot, it's probably pretty awesome. I just don't give a damn about this story. This was 4 issues a month, basically, of storytelling for no purpose whatsoever. This damn issue, we're gonna spoil it, so everybody watch out if you're not wanting to be spoiled. It ends with a bunch of 9-panel grids. Well, it ends with the damn button there. I won't show you. There's a bit in here I won't show you. I'll show you the epilogue. The epilogue has this button falling through space. It focuses down. Whether or not you think this is good 9-panel grids or not, I don't know. I could argue that, whatever. And you get over here where they almost do a 9-panel grid, but then decide not to. You get the old Superman. Anybody who's been paying attention to the damn ads knows that there's a doomsday clock ticking up to Superman in some sense or whatever. It even does a cute little quote from a book here. Gives us the cloak, the clock, a la Watchmen, kind of a thing. And then we get the doomsday clock. coming in November, 2 minutes to Superman, whatever the hell that's supposed to mean. And we're all supposed to be all titillated that Jeff Johns is going to come back and write a comic book, and Gary Frank's going to be doing the art on it. And I suppose if I was a diehard loyal DC fan, I'd be like, being all overexcited and embarrassing myself. I'm not excited at all. I will not be getting it. I've been kind of back and forth on the fence. This issue just irritated the shit out of me enough to 100% know I'm not getting it. Now I may go back and buy it after the fact, but I'm sure as hell not buying it as it's coming out. It took me off.
This is Jeff Johns. His entire life has been setting up for this whole comic.
Yeah, go back to doing movies and TV shows, Jeff Johns.
Yeah.
I quite frankly, I know people are huge Jeff Johns fans. I have not been excited about Jeff Johns writing a comic book since the Justice Society. And that was 2011, 2012, I think is when he got done doing that. All the stuff that in between has been, whatever. I did not like his Justice League. It was just all kind of whatever. So literally this issue ends right back where we started the damn thing at, just about, kind of a thing. Oh, the button, Reverse Flash is a smoking heap laying on the floor of the Batcave. The people they met or whatever, they briefly flash this Flash. He can't get the vibrations right and he disappears again. Some people have hypothesized, ooh, this means that the JSA is coming back. I don't see how you get that unless it's just your wishful thinking. Because if that was the case, as soon as we saw Johnny Thunder, we should have been thinking that, because Johnny Thunder was part of the original JSA at one point too. And I know some people are going, who the hell is Johnny Thunder? But whatever. Earth 2. old comics. So yeah, it was, like I said, I wasn't going to get them. Then I decided I was going to get it, and I'm really irritated. I wish I wouldn't have gotten the Flash issues. I wish I would have just stuck with the Batman issues for my collection. And I was just having a conversation this afternoon with the Disembodied Voice when I finished this issue, going, you know what? I need to drop my collector mentality and go full on reader mentality. And when I know a storyline's coming up, I don't want just to have damn gaps in my collection, because I could have done without those 2 issues of Batman. Super excited by this issue of Batman, clearly, but the 2 before it were part of the fluff piece for this, to supposedly get my juices wet for this damn thing, and it has not helped at all. Forever Evil. That helps sum up part of it. I'm just not, I'm not,
Well, and you're going to eventually hit the cons. You could probably grab them out of the dollar bin at that
exactly.
point.
That's what I'm thinking. I'm gonna be someplace where I'm gonna be able to buy it cheaper. If not, that way someday I'm gonna be doing a shopping on eBay, and somebody's gonna have the pile of them for for basically the equivalent of $1 each, and I'll just buy them all in one lump. Then I can read them then and go, I'm glad I didn't pay full price for that. And I'll be thrilled to death if it comes out and people I know who aren't just sucked into the hype train are excited for the book and they think it's great and whatnot. Then I may chase it down. I now have a comic book store that's basically in the town I live in. We'll see if it lasts till November, because comic book stores don't last for long. But if people are super excited about it, I may go pick it up, or I may go down to the comic book store and be one of those evil people that sits there and flips through it on the shelf and puts it back and doesn't buy it because I know it. Don't get me wrong. I like the artist. He's good. He's a fine artist. Jeff Johns has written good stuff in the past, but nothing about this makes me excited at all. It irritates the shit out of me, because now I know they say it's not going to affect any of the comics, that whole thing is going to be its own. The whole Dooms thing is going to be its own thing. It won't have tie-ins or whatever. I'm still suspicious that it's going to jack up the Superman comics that I'm trying to read and I'm actually enjoying right now again. And they just got screwed up by this rebirth thing. Reborn thing. So I'm not excited about that. This whole thing has put me so off of the whole kind of crossover event, all of that kind of stuff. I'm not going to order any of the dark stuff, the heavy metal Batman and dark metal whatever, and the whatever dark this is and the dark that is, that's going to spin out of all this stuff. And then supposedly all these other comics are going to come out of that. I'm not touching any of that event crap. Because to me, whether they're calling it an event or not, I have no idea. It is, and I'm not into it. And this just is made me so angry as a comic book reader about all that stuff that, oh, rent and rave, right? So, yeah, I'm just not buying it, not getting it. I just, like I said, that thing is just cemented. Because I've been going back and forth on Twitter with Comics to Comics, CDC, about whether or not I'm going to get it. You know, he's like, I'm not getting it. And I'm like, well, maybe I'm going to get it. And he's like, yeah, okay, maybe I'll get it. And then I'm like, then you read Jeff Johns saying it's what his entire comic book career is leading up to. And it's like, oh, no, I'm out again. If you're selling it that hard, I'm out, you know. And he'll bring up Forever Evil, which for me and him was a real turkey of a comic. And it just makes me go, no, I'm not. And this, like I said, just I get off my high horse about it now, but just has so put me off of anything like that, crossovers and event things and whatnot. But to me, there was no value in it. And I would love to have a conversation with somebody who thinks there was value in that 4 issues, other than just telling me it was fun. I mean, I guess maybe, but the beginning and the end, nothing that was in between matters at all. It doesn't. It literally ended back where it was. Other than we got to have like 5 or 6 panels of Bruce Wayne Batman being able to have a marginal conversation with Thomas Wayne Batman from the kind of new bastardized version of Earth 2, Flashpoint-ish kind of a thing going, you know, and that was it. That could have been good. You know, that whole them two meeting each other, what that was. They tried to make something out of it that's kind of epilogue. They have a point where, because in one of the issues, Batman, Thomas Wayne Batman tells Bruce Wayne Batman, don't be Batman. Don't be Batman for me. Go live your life. Give this up. Our deaths are not worth this, not worth destroying your life being Batman, because I know what it's like to be Batman for the rest of your life, because I've done that. Go live your life, because, it's not worth it. And so there is this moment where it's an entire page of Bruce standing there staring out the window. The bat light signal comes on and he doesn't respond. It's on. He's looking at the ground. Alfred comes up and goes, sir, are you going to answer that? Sir? And that's it, kind of thing. We do get an actual pure on Watchmen moment in this. We get the blue hand come down and pick up that effing button. If you're familiar with Watchmen,
yeah,
the movie, whatever, the books. We literally get that, the blue hand show up. So, remember, I was going to briefly talk about that. Holy cows!
And remember, follow Travis on Twitter to find out how he really feels.
Yes, I guess. Oh man, Red Trinity. Francis Manapul is back on the book. He's writing it. He's drawing it. So it looks pretty. Dialogue is I don't know how much longer I'm gonna be on this. I like the idea of reading stories with the big three, the Trinity in it. I like these characters, having conversations with her and being friends and whatnot, because they are just so. I mean, of the superheroes, they are so much larger in life, the top tier of that. So they have that kind of in common, if nothing else. So they have this kind of interesting relationship. It touches back on the story arc that Francis Manapul wrote at the beginning. This is issue 9, so like 3 or 4 issues ago is when that ended. It touches back on some of that kind of stuff. He's still using that arc. There's some other stuff from that's being used in it. But just kind of, there's some gorgeous, like I said, there's some really cool art in here in places. There's this double page spread. The Watchtower, something has happened to it. There's like a virus in there. When I say virus, not computer, but an actual virus that's kind of turning some of the other JLA members into kind of monstrous, out of control things. A hole gets blown in the Watchtower, and people are getting sucked out and that sort of thing. So you get this really cool 2-page spread where here's the hole, right, in space, and they're all being sucked out of that. And it is gorgeous. Yeah. I mean, that is just a super sexy page. As Batman's trying to hang on to stuff as they're being sucked out. Oh my gosh. It's really cool. Really, really great color-wise, but it's kind of, I don't know. It's not probably. I'm probably not going to order this. I'm going to look and see what the solicitation is when I go do my orders probably tomorrow. If it's the rest of this story, I'll probably pick up that issue, and then I'm probably done after that. It's a $4 book. I'm not using the free comic code. And it's just not quite where I want it to be, I guess. So, and I'm starting to feel like this is a 23 issue week for me. need to slow down something. Can't cut any more Marvel. They're all gone. So now I'm going to start picking on these things that aren't quite doing it. Not that I'm not picking on the indie comics too, because there's some of those I'm going to quit reading also. But yeah, I don't know. I'm reading over some of the comments when I'm there. I'll, to some degree, agreeing with me, or after listening to my rant about the last one, thankful they didn't pick up the button thing. Carlos is saying that I have a feeling the story was changed at the last minute to set up the doomsday clock. So you think that story in November is something they just hatched in the last month or so? I don't know. November is November is still a long ways off, but you think they changed just the ending of it just to wet our whistle to be excited about something that's going to happen 6 months from now? Because that's literally 6 months now. That's half a year from now.
Well, and when we talk Marvel, I think sometimes, they might be tweaking things.
Well, we certainly know with Marvel they are. We'll get to that. We'll get to that. They got this problem with their event books that beyond the other problems with the event books. To get to some comics I actually like, so I'm not picking on all the stuff I didn't like. Read Batwoman issue number 3. Really enjoying it. Like where the story's going. Like the artwork in it. As a monthly comic, enjoying the heck out of it. Batwoman is establishing that she plays different than Batman does. She reminds the villain in this because the villain wants to treat her like Batman, and she's kind of like, I don't play like Batman, and so I enjoyed that aspect of it and stuff. So really enjoyed that. I'm enjoying her conversations between Tuxedo One instead of calling Pennyworth's daughter Penny 2. She's called Tuxedo One, and operates on this great yacht they have. So I'm kind of digging it. I'm digging that feeling. So yeah, I'm enjoying it. Enjoying that. Super Sons is an incredible comic. Issue number 4. We basically finish fighting the Amazo kid in this, who is a kid who's got the Amazo supervillains as a virus going through him, and it changes him and allows him to become like Amazo, basically. And he stole this Amazo suit from Lex Luthor, had it under lock and key, and when he stole it, it allows him to even be more of an Amazo kind of a thing. And so, Superboy and Robin, been dealing with this. They're bickering and fighting between each other, kind of like family, kind of like brothers, kind of a thing. They have lots of great quibs between them. Damian's constantly picking on Jonathan about the fact, do you really have superpowers or not? And the supervillain in this comments on the fact that I got powers from one of you, and the other one I got nothing from, because he's just a human that flips. Talking about Robin. So then, of course, Superboy uses that throughout the rest of the comic, going, well, maybe you should just flip and you can get us out of this or whatever, kind of a thing. So there's all these kind of, one-off quips at each other, which is just really fun. It's a hilarious comic. Lex Luthor shows up in this issue too. And of course, Lex Luthor is just kind of tired of these stupid kids. They're kind of screwing with this stuff. Damian kind of uses him because he really doesn't want to call his parents. That's the last people he wants to call as his parents. So they use Lex Luthor as kind of a way to save them, to get them out of the initial problem that they have. And they get home, and at the end of this, it's hilarious. They get home. They think they're sneaking in. Jonathan's ranting at Damian about how he's sick of Damian, doesn't want to be his partner, wants nothing to do with the Teen Titans or any of that stuff. And Damian's like, oh, you loved it, it kind of thing. And Damian's like, hey, are you gonna take me back to Gotham? I'm stuck here. And it's like, and because they're back in Smallville basically, and Jonathan's like, no, you find your own way. He's starting to sneak into his house, right? Because this has all supposedly happened overnight. Well, the beginning of this issue, Lois is woken up and telling John that he's got to do the chores because Superman's out with Justice League, and Alfred is telling Damian, waking Damian up at 4:00 for his first training. They're both like, oh, I know you're mad because you didn't get to do blah, blah, blah. And of course, the kids aren't there, Alfred's hilarious because Alfred goes, at least when Master, Richards would run away at night, he at least had the courtesy of making a pillow dummy as an illusion because Damien doesn't even do that. You know, it's just an empty bed. Well, they're waiting for him at the end, and the art in this book I absolutely love. I mean, look how pissed off Lois is. Like, you better start explaining yourself. You know, and there's Alfred too. They both know the two of them are off running around when they're not supposed to be. So great ending to a 4-issue story. It's just a lot of fun. These kids, Tomasi does a great job of writing these kids. They're a hoot. And like I said, the art, these different, you know, angles of them running along and whatnot. The art by Jimenez is just smart. It's really good, really fun, you know, comic book style art, you know, of two kids just kind of romping around and having a good time. So,
and that one's a monthly, right?
It is a monthly book. You know, it's gone up to the $3.99 like all the DC, so you get that, you know, silly little code. But I've been liking it. It's just it's a book I pick up and I know I'm just gonna have a fun time reading and really just enjoy it for. It's not, you know, you don't take it real serious. You know, it's just this good romp of a story. So, yeah. I did quickly read Superman right before coming on the air. As a matter of fact, I was reading it while we were waiting to start. It's an interesting story. I mean, it dips into the old stories of the Elite. I had to look it up before I came on because at the end of this, there's a character I didn't know who it was. I had to look him up. He's part of Elite. In this, they're called the Super Elite. The one problem with this is there's 3 inkers on it. So part of it looks really good because it's got the inker that's been working on it, inking over Mankey's art. And that inker is Mendoza. And then it's got 2 other inkers on it. One of those inkers is Mankey himself. And I really don't like Mankey when Mankey's inking himself. It just quickly devolves. And so the comic has some issues because visually it kind of breaks down for me. So, yeah. Anyway, and that's it for my DC Comics. DC News? Anything?
Not that I can think of.
All I've seen is I know people have started seeing advanced showings of the of Wonder Woman, and everybody loves it. Even supposedly the hard-boiled critics are excited about it. They think it's got good stuff in it. So it's not just the, you know, the paid fanboys that are excited about it. So I'm hoping for good things. That is what, 2 weeks from now. So, and you know, otherwise I don't know of any other DC news. Yeah, everything was announced last week that I can think of. So, alrighty, on to Marvel, which could be quick because it's gonna be just Mike talking. Because me and Rez, we hate Marvel. They're stinky.
Haters.
No, it just isn't the week I'm getting any books. So
yeah, I know. Yeah, definitely. I know. I've been kind of low back and forth. Of course, maybe I'll just suddenly drop off. I'm reading, of course, The Mighty Thor. This always seems to be the killer for me, but
right.
This was just informational filler because it's confrontation between Thor, Jane Foster, and the Phoenix Force. And she has the Phoenix Force enter her mind. She discusses with it. It says, you know, give me the weapon, Molinar. Sorry.
When you say it's a conversation between Thor, Jane Foster, and who?
Sorry, no, Jane Foster and the Phoenix Force.
Okay, so it's Odin's son and Thor.
No, sorry, I just meant to say Jane Foster when I said
okay.
Thor.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So it is Jane Foster, and it is the Odin, and it is the Phoenix Force.
Okay.
So it's in her mind, and while discussing it, you know, it says, you know, give me the hammer. I'll take the weight off your shoulders. And finally, she realizes this is in my mind. I'm still holding my hammer, and then she hits the Phoenix Force with it. She realizes that there is a god of storms basically trapped in Molinar. That's kind of the new backstory origin of the weapon. And so she knows that the quenching cold storm can do damage to the Phoenix Force. So, I mean, that was nice. And then she weakened it just enough that Quentin Quire could invade using his mind. And he's talking with it, and he says, you know, eventually I become the vessel that holds you. So what happens is the Phoenix Force gives just enough power to soup Quentin up to be the uber omega mutant that he is. And then the rest of it just kind of disappears. So in a nutshell, that was the main part of it. They do go before the Assembly of Gods because all this was happening because the 2 Shi'ar gods wanted to do a contest against Thor on who's the better god. by destroying planets, by sending plagues out. And so they deemed that they lost. They'll be imprisoned for 1,000 years or millennia. And then it was just, there's also, there's still this war going on between Asgard and the Dark Elves, the Ice Giants, and all this other stuff. So there's just a ton of other story that's still going on that's not being touched on during this point. And of course, there's a council, basically United Nations of realms. Kull, who is the god of fear, because Odin is still damaged. And I'm thinking, this is 15, or was it? We're on issue 19, so it's maybe like 10 to 15 issues back that all this rest of the story.
Oh.
So we're just slowly coming back around to it. Jane has to step down. She hasn't been able, because of her Thor duties, to be in this United Nations Council, and it ends up that one of Thor's old girlfriends, Solomon, is going to end up taking her spot. So, yeah, it was just weird that much story, is out there that Jason is just starting to wrap it up.
So they're getting back to, huh? Yeah.
Yeah.
We've not heard that book's going anywhere, right? And we haven't heard that Jason Aaron's not on that book anymore, right? I mean, I know he's leaving Doctor Strange, so.
Yeah, no, as far as I know, him and Dodderman are still going on it. And it was a little weird. There was, he did pages like 1 through 10 and 18. And then Valerio Schlitt is doing like 11 through 17, 19, and 20. So I think Dodderman's having a little trouble staying up on the book.
Well, so was that change on the art have to do with what was going on in the story at the time, or just?
No. It was.
Okay.
It seemed to be just kind of some fill-in stuff.
Okay. So something's up anyway, huh? Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Any other Marvel besides me?
I don't know. I think it's just you. Let me check. Yeah, it's just you.
Okay, all right. I just wanted to make sure. I don't want to just steamroll anybody. Robinson and ACO with Rosenberg on colors. Nick Fury #2. And I put on Twitter quite a bit of this. I mean, it is just, sometimes it's just pure magic. I mean, there is just, nice paneling, 2 pages. And that's the thing that also surprises me is, I would probably call it bubblegum pop art in some places. But when you see some of the color that's in here that Rosenberg does, that's real. I don't know what it is, but I like it. For this book, this is my Fast and Furious. It's it's all the sugar I'm not allowed to have put on the pages of this comic book. It is almost the storyline of Black Widow that we saw, because it is one agent against like a bigger enterprise, because it's basically just Nick Fury Jr. with somebody in his ear telling him to do the mission, and he's tackling Hydra, or in this one it's the Yakuza, who are in space on some moon base, and he's got to get a power source, but he has this person who's in opposition of him, and she sneaks in and is just amazing. So she's just as good as Nick, and that's what I love about it. Frankie Noble is the villain in this story, and I feel like she's fairly new for all this. It's just good. I mean, it is that Mission Impossible, too much, too big of action, too big of a challenge, and everything still gets done. And it's one issue and a whole story, and I think that's also what's great. Yeah. I see that so rarely now.
Yeah, I was really tempted to get that because I love his work. I just was suspicious as to how many issues is he going to really be on, and so that's why I kind of didn't pull the trigger on it, kind of a thing. And every time you talk about it and show pages from it, when I'm like, oh, I want it. So it'd be one of those things. I don't know, either I'll rush out and see if I can find the singles. I'll break down. We get to issue 3 or 4 and he's still on it. I'll be rushing out to grab him, or, for sure get it in trade just so I can see all the eye candy and whatnot. Because because it's very visually lots of little, he's kind of become known for those little itty panels that are all over the place on a big splash page that gives you all this visual stuff going on, and I love that. That's just cool. I mean, I don't know, I want every comic to be that way, but cool seeing his comic that way for sure. So
yeah, and I would say especially if they can keep doing these whole stories confined to one issue.
Oh yeah,
because then I guess I don't care if there's someone else because I'm not going to pick up those issues.
Yeah, right.
Right back when it's HBO.
Because you shop at a See, I don't know that I have that ability, but it's tempted. That's tempting.
Yep.
And you saying they're single issues, that makes me even more tempted that if I go check out that new shop, I'll see if they have that sitting around.
And there is the overarching storyline that it's spy versus spy, the old Mad cartoon. So you got these two that are always trying to best each other. So there is an idea of an overarching story, but yeah, I'm enjoying just each one. So
each issue has its own adventure, though. Yeah. Cool. Right on.
And then, of course, lastly, we will tackle Secret Empire here. So,
issue 2.
Issue 2, yep. So this is issue 2. Nick Spencer and Andre Sorrentino, which is why I picked it up. We see, his contribution to the cover, as we have the Hydra reflection in the shield. Just to let everybody know, there will be spoilers. To spoil last week, I stopped just short of saying that Captain America at the end of the issue, it wasn't even issue 1. It was the
0, like free comic book
issue. Yeah, the free comic book day one. So I guess maybe that was 2 weeks ago. He picks up Thor's hammer, showing that he was also worthy.
A worthy Nazi. Okay.
Yep. So, I mean, that's the thing. That's where they're saying that they're having trouble beating him. So, I mean, yeah, there is just so many implications on the storyline. Yeah, so I didn't read issue 1, so I jump into this, and instantly we find out, it starts out in the black. It's Power Man and Iron Fist arguing with each other, like, well, find the door. We got to hurry up because the lights are going to come on soon, and it's bad. And all of a sudden, the lights come on, and they're surrounded by demons. And evidently, the Manhattan Island, or most of New York, is encompassed in the Dark Force, like what's in Cloak's cloak. Or a couple other villains have the power. And we see later on that Cloak and Dagger are hovering above what appears to be like the Empire State Building, and Dagger can make light for a certain amount of hours a day. I think she's getting down to about 4, so she's weakening day by day, because she was doing it for like 12 hours, they said. So, I mean, there's also components in this book. So you get your street fighters, those guys. They're trying to get medicines for Claire, who I'm guessing was the night nurse, and she is taking care of people in New York. They cut to these criminals who are busting into a church. They are holding everybody up at gunpoint and asking for their medications, food, all that stuff. And then the Kingpin walks in, and they're like, Mr. Kingpin, we are sorry. We will give you your cut. We're just doing this because this is what we need. This is what we want to get this done, and we want to do this for you. And he's like, oh, I didn't understand this was a want. I thought this was a need. So he kills the first one, and he basically slaughters these people. And then he tells everybody in the church, just remember, when all this is done and the heroes save you, that I personally took care of you, and these people are never coming back to harm you.
Wow.
So, I mean, it was very Kingpin, very nice. I just enjoyed that because I do love that street level feel. We then cut over to, it looks like everybody is in Arizona desert, Southern Rockies, however you want to say it. And you see Iron Man is there, Black Widow, and there's an argument between them on how do we take care of this. And Iron Man's like, I think there's solutions. And Black Widow is, if Cap was here, he would say, kill me, because this is not how he'd want to live his life, and we just need to take care of it. Enough Band-Aids. This is a solution. So it's they're dividing into that idea. Once again, it's the two sides of the coin. How do you solve the problem? Iron Man's side or his adversary.
Yeah.
It was interesting. There was, Sorrentino loves to draw a whole bunch of people into backgrounds and all that. So
Mhm.
there's some I wasn't recognizing. I believe Ant-Man had a sidekick towards the end of his personal book that you were reading, Travis, like Reyes or Reese.
Oh yeah, he took over. I mean, he's like a secondary Ant-Man. Yeah, like
All
Goliath.
right,
He was like
all
Giant
right.
Man, basically.
So he is in here, and I
Mhm.
didn't recognize him at first because of the
Mhm.
facial hair, and I'm like, well, it's obviously not Ant-Man,
Right, right. Yeah.
but the idea is, and they spell it out, and of course, beautiful Sorrentino artwork here. These are all tiny pictures that make a big mosaic.
Yeah.
The idea is, yes, this all started back with Pleasant Hills, so this is definitely a
Cosmic
thank
Cube.
you, a
Mhm.
treat to the Marvel people who have stuck with Marvel all their life, got all the books, because it's, Pleasant Hill, the prison, the Cosmic Cube is what did this. That
Mhm.
becomes the little girl Kobik who joins Thunderbolts, but she was really a friend to Red
Red Mask.
Skull
Yeah, Red Skull. Yeah.
while he was in this Pleasantville or Pleasant Hill idea. Um, but of course, he wasn't following the rules properly. So when she remade Captain America, he took over Red Skull, so I don't know where Red Skull is in this. It doesn't help that I'm skipping every so many issues either, I'm sure. But the idea, yeah, is they've built him up. It's this idea of the strong. That's what Hydra is supposed to be, is the strong survive, which creates this utopia that I think I saw with, you know, Apocalypse or a lot of the X-Men stories where we see
Mhm.
the end. This continues along. They use Eric Selvig from the movies as a comic book character again, and he breaks up the cosmic cube and scatters the parts. So now that's what this is
Mhm.
going to be: is everybody looking for the parts of the cosmic cube? And they kind of show like parts. There's somebody like holding a shard, and it's like Namor's eyes, Red Skull's mouth, and then it looks like the demons that are trapped in the dark zone.
Wow.
Um, so you just see that shard keeping all three of them. So I'm guessing that's where they're going to have to go. They have the tape of Rick Jones explaining what's wrong with Captain America. This is what happened and all that. So their idea is they can save Captain America. And then Natasha decides she's still got to do the killing, so she sneaks off. And we get towards the end, and that's where we get to this new artist or this other person who finishes up the last 3 pages. And it was, I was going to see who they even credited for that. Rod Reese. And that's what's weird. So
Nice. Rod Reese is the guy who did Cowl and
oh,
and we're back though. Phew.
okay, all right, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
Always
but
with me.
he's the artist on Hadrian's Wall also. Yeah.
Okay, all right. And yeah, so it's got that distinctive painted style and
Oh yeah.
feel, but we have the Serpent Society chasing this girl and beating her. Am I still
Oh,
choppy,
you're
or is
you're here. You're
all right? And of course, the last page, I'm letting everybody know. Here comes the spoiler. She is rescued, and my name is Steve Rogers, and I'm just trying to get home.
so
Many people have
it's not even
stated,
so it's not even the same damn Captain America. It's a different Captain America.
and that's where there are, people have been saying it's this or that, and DC and Nick Spencer, it's like, it's not an alternative world, it's not a
Yeah, 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 yeah,
clone,
yeah,
it's
yeah.
not whatever. But some people think this Steve Rogers at the end is the one from the Dimension Z, and
Mm-hmm.
that storyline might tie back in.
Right. Well, because part of the reason that is because this whole idea of the Hydra mole and whatnot was actually came about by Rick Remender. He
So,
had the idea. He sold it to Marvel, basically saying, "Hey, do this." But he says his intention was never Captain America was never going to be one of the moles. So there would be moles, and there'd be moles all over the place, but it would never be, it wasn't ever going to be Captain America. So, yeah. So I'm assuming, I mean, because I've kind of tuned out all of the Marvel bullshit around the whole, Captain Nazi or not kind of a thing. And I'll freely admit I fall into the category of, we really shouldn't be, in this, with the current climate that's happening in America and in American comics, it seems very tone deaf to throw out a Nazi Captain America. Whether you think Hydra is Nazi or not, that's a whole other argument. I think you're wrong. I think I'm right. Because you historically look at Hydra. Hydra is a branch of Nazis. So whatever. But I know that there's the Marvel faithful are going, see, you guys are all a bunch of dickbags for picking on poor Nick Spencer and all of this because, Captain America was never a Nazi. Here's the real Captain America. Well, they're both the real Captain America, first and foremost. So that means one of them is, Hail Hydra. And all of that and whatnot. And I'm not hating on Hydra as a bad guy group. Cool, rock on. I mean, there's certainly, you can have Nazis in comic books in any shape or form, whatever. That's all well and fine. There's this whole other dynamic there. And then there's those creators in particular, Nick Spencer, and his social media skills on responding to people initially even questioning what the hell was going on, caused a lot of all the heartache and whatnot. So this doesn't surprise me. I mean, it doesn't, me personally, it doesn't make me go, damn, I wish I would have picked all that up now. And because clearly this makes it a great story, whatever. I don't know. I mean, that is cool if it is the Captain America for Dimension Z and he never made it back, except now you got to explain to me those Rick Remender stories where he did make it back.
Yep.
Because that doesn't make any sense if that's where he's from. I mean, I know right now that's reader speculation, not what the comic has said, right?
Correct.
So I think there's some holes in that because I read all of that. I really enjoyed the whole Dimension Z stuff and whatnot. So if that's him, why? Just because he has a beard, that's why he is?
I believe that it was the clothing that he was wearing.
Yeah.
I think there was.
But so like I said, so that still puts me in the category of I don't understand how that works because he did come back. We actually saw him come back. That was all Cosmic Cube stuff. They have a lot of holes to fill up and whatnot. But at any rate, so I guess yay or whatever. So how are you feeling about Secret Wars? Secret Wars, good grief.
Secret Empire. Yeah. Well, and I mean, like I said, so there's all those components. Plus, I mean, I even forgot because they didn't really talk about it in this. Most of the big Marvel people are also trapped outside of the world, outside of Earth, because the Chitaris are also still invading.
Right.
And I mean, and they use the pictures from the Marvel movie too. So, I mean, the big creatures that you see flying in the sky. And I was just like, and I was, that's the problem too, because at one comic they said, you don't call them Chitauri because that's a slanderous word or, a vulgar word for them. They're the Skrulls. But of course, Marvel doesn't have the movie rights to Skrulls. That's Fantastic Four. So they're using this off-name branch. Yeah. So, I mean, a lot of it is, you see the incorporation of the movie, a lot of the changes. I'm sure for everybody who's invested every single dollar and is Marvel-focused, this is a reward.
Sure.
It's tying things in. I mean, all the characters are there. It's covering ground. It's covering space. It's covering the big idea, which, is like the three big storylines that Marvel likes to use. But
So here's my next question for you.
Yeah.
Are you digging it so much that you're happy you're going to have to buy a extra issue that was not in the original solicitations? Because Marvel can't seem to do an event in the last year without having to go, oh, we're going to add an extra issue in. I mean, the only thing I can say about that is at least the entire relaunch of whatever's coming next isn't dependent upon that. Like the secret. Was it Secret Wars? No, it was Civil War 2, where it takes an extra issue to get done, and we're already getting the answers and all the other comics and whatnot. How can you do that every time? This is stuff that's supposed to be already kind of hammered out.
Yeah.
where the hell are the editors at in this? Are they doing that because they're like, damn, people love this so much? Let's give an extra issue of Nazi Captain America to put in here because people are so excited and talking so positively about it that that's what we want to do. Let's put another issue in. I mean, I get the money grab aspect of it, but is it really a money grab, or is it just more people going, shit, oh dear, why would I do another one of these? I mean, I'm upset about it, and I'm not even buying the damn book. Them doing that all the time.
And I wonder, because I question, because like I said, with Rod writing or doing the last 2 or 3 pages of art, yeah, I don't know why, because I believe Sorrentino is 2, if not, I think he's 2 books ahead. So he has enough time to do all these books. I mean, that's why he jumped off of Old Man Logan, was to do this.
Right.
So it makes me feel like they added those pages in to change the story or do something different. And that's why they have to add this whole last issue in, is because most of it is scoped out, but now they have to fix it. At least as a reader.
It makes you wonder what the ending was, and they went, oh shit, this isn't going to work. We have to scramble and add an extra 20 pages in to fix whatever it was that we did. Or they decided it's going to set up the legacy stuff.
Possibly. But it just didn't make sense. I mean, as much as, I like Rod stuff and other stuff.
Sure.
Why the last 3 pages?
You're buying it for the Sorrentino ride, right? I mean, that's why you're there. Yeah. So you're excited about an extra issue because this was an extra issue of Sorrentino art, right?
Possibly. I don't know, actually, because I know he's doing a couple issues in there, but I think McNiven is also still doing.
Right. That's right. Because I remember somebody on Twitter saying, I'm okay with this because it's another issue of McNiven art. So it may not even be there. I like McNiven. Yeah. He's a great artist too. But
yeah, and I do. But I mean, I can get those in $1 later.
So what you're telling me is we're not going to hear the ending of this on this show because you aren't going to buy it until months later when it shows up on the dollar wall. Okay.
Probably. Yeah.
All right. That's frustrating though. I mean, that would frustrate me if I was, any of the DC books, because clearly everybody knows I'm more of a DC fan than a Marvel fan. If they were to do that to me and they tell me it's going to be this many issues, and I start getting, especially if they've done it multiple times, I start getting suspicious as to what that somebody is trying to fix whatever. You're right. So stuff. All righty. Any other Marvel news type stuff?
No, I think I exposed everything last week. So
okay, right on. So let's talk some independent books.
All right.
So we can listen to Rez talk a little. What do you want to talk about first, Rez?
My favorite book of the week, Dead Inside by John R. Creedy, published by Dark Horse Comics. I really enjoyed this issue. It wrapped it up very nice and neatly, which I can appreciate with a lot of books these days. Like when they actually do it right, when they start off with a really good story and it ends in a way where you feel satisfied. It also has these hints that maybe it could be a possible sequel. Sure. And it is a hint so much to the point where you're like, you're aggravated by it. I feel like I think John R. Creedy just did a perfect job with this. It was a great setup. The execution was well, just like the blurb on the front says. It was consistently great. I mean, you can't get any better than that. We see in this particular issue, the way it ends is that we find out that that one weird inmate, the one Hispanic inmate, was the whole mastermind behind everything. Right. We find out that he was the one who took out that big guy in the very first issue, and then had this one skinny guy murder himself, and then sent his mother a check, and posed it as an insurance company. And then apparently the one guy who got shot in the jail, the one sheriff, he actually lived. I'm like, and I was a little shocked by that. I kind of felt almost cheated a bit, but the way they went about it, when they snuck, when the one detective got snuck into the jail, and the way she reacted to those men when they were coming on to her, acting crazy with her, and the one guy was like, "I'm watching everything you're doing," and then she stabs him in the eye.
Yeah, watch this.
Yeah, I was like, she's so badass. Like, oh my god, I love this. I freaking love this issue. It's just crazy. Glad to see the guy alive. I kind of had a little inkling of a feeling that maybe they're together now, because when she went to visit him in the hospital and give him flowers, there was like a moment of flirtation, a tad bit. I kind of read it. Maybe I'm a little reading too much into it, but I kind of felt like they were flirting, and maybe they're together. You know, because didn't she call him like a term of endearment of some sort, like sweetheart or
I don't
babe?
remember her calling him that. I remember him calling her a pussy, calling him a pussy for spending a week in the hospital because he got shot in the neck.
Yeah, sweetheart. He's like, in an effing second, you would, sweetheart. You know, like I kind of felt like that was kind of quippy, but it was kind of flirty.
Right. Okay, sure.
Into it because I thought they would make a cute little couple, maybe, I don't know, but I mean, she did see his hide, you know. But I really did enjoy this particular issue. Was like, for me, the most standout besides a few other that I read. But yeah, John Arcudi, great writer. I look forward to seeing season 2, which I think we talked about before, that maybe, and then I really hope to see more of a Faizullah, you know, and his illustrations.
Yeah. Faizullah isn't always my favorite artist. He's a little odd, and in some places it's strange, but still works for the story for sure. I'm with you. A great detective kind of a story. It hits all the notes you want a detective story to take. This issue is surprising in the fact, like you said, we find out, you know, the who done it. You know, this is the issue that we find out who did it, and it's not who expect. You know, the 4 issues before this is complicated, you know, kind of Machiavellian, sneaky, you know, wardens doing this kind of, you know, all this different stuff that's going on. And then we find out that it was really a lot simpler than all that. They actually made it way more, the police actually made it way more complicated than it really, you know, needed to have been, you know, kind of a thing. You know, which made it interesting, you know, kind of it was a surprise. You know, you wouldn't have guessed this kind of a thing, you know, which was enjoyable. But yeah, they had some good action in this and whatnot. And it does. It ends in a way that's satisfying to have an ending, you know, the equivalent of walking off to the sunset, but sets it up to where easily at any point they could tell her doing another detective story. Some other crime happens and they tell us some other, you know, story for sure and whatnot. And then I would get it. You know, I don't know what they would call it. Dead Inside? I don't know. But because I mean, this title is particular to the fact is this whole starts out with there's a murder in a prison and a prisoner has been, you know, a murder suicide. And they quickly find out that one of the people was murdered with a gun. Well, how do you have a gun inside of a prison? You know, anyway, this person being a detective trying to figure out, you know, how the person became dead inside the slammer. So,
dead inside.
Yeah. But yeah, I enjoyed it too. It was a great 5-issue, you know, story. Happy with that. And like I said, they certainly set it up to where we could read more. It'll be really cool too. So, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I really, you know, John Arcudi, basically anything he puts out, I'm trying. He just writes strong stuff, has good, strong ideas. So from a writer standpoint, you know, I'm, you know, pretty much whatever he's writing, I'm buying. So yeah. Cool. Writing. Mike, did you pick up anything that falls into the world of independence?
I believe even Rez has this one, God Country.
Oh, right on.
I didn't grab it this week.
Oh, you didn't? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So this is issue number 5. It is the continuation after the battle of the younger, or it's the younger son has gotten whooped, and Texas style, we'll say, and it ends up that the father gives his warrior son the weapon that was used, the hammer that was used to forge the sword Valoran. And so it's, you know, the mighty Thor weapon, basically, giant hammer. There's a great fight between them, but of course the old man's family, the son and kid and granddaughter, are just scared about this whole thing, and the grandfather's about to kill the great warrior, and the son's like, you know, stop. You know, why are you doing this, Dad? Just give up the sword. We understand you're losing your mind and everything, and you'll go back to having Alzheimer's if you do so. And the father realizes, or realizes that the thing he has to do is go to the planet where the God King is, and if he wants his sword so bad, he's going to have to kill him for it. So it continues to be great. It is, you know, about one big fight after another with just that underlying story of family and Alzheimer's and dealing with it. So number 6 will be the final issue. It's to be concluded. So
Oh, okay.
It's a good
Cool.
book.
Right on. Right on. Let's see what I want to talk about. Let's talk about Royal City.
Oh yeah, that's next on my list.
Yeah. Right on. So Jeff Lemire's Royal City, all done by him. Issue number 3. This issue focuses a lot on this woman who is trying to buy out the Royal City. Basically, it's large factory that the whole city is kind of built and based around. They're gonna, you know, she's willing to put in this fancy, you know, housing and company type stuff and whatnot. And her husband works for the company. He's a foreman at the company. And we find out in this issue that he is unionizing the workers so they can fight against her buying the old man that owns the factory selling this plot of land to her, because he knows at the end of the day they're all gonna lose their jobs. You know, maybe they'll get rehired at the new place, who knows, you know, kind of a thing. And so there's a big conflict between the two of them. The other aspect that happens in this issue is last issue, the older brother writer picks up his younger brother, who's basically the town drunk, and they have a conversation in the car. All the while, our little Tommy, is it Tommy?
Tommy.
Tommy is hunting all of them individually, depending on who they are, depends on how they hunt them. For her, she sees him as the little boy. We do find out in this issue that she suffered a miscarriage. So maybe that's part of the aspect of why she's being haunted by the baby version, the toddler version of her little brother, who's we all know has died. The older brother, who's the writer, was an interesting. I really like that at the end of this issue, where he's sitting at a diner, he's trying to get some stuff written because his agent has told him he has till the end of the month to give them a rough draft, or they're canceling his contract to write books to them, and he has to pay back the money that they advanced him. And he doesn't even have remotely close to a book. I mean, like, he doesn't even have, you know, chapter 1 written down on a page, let alone an actual book kind of a thing done. And he has a journal, and the journal is Tommy's journal from 1993 to dash, and it never got finished. And a drowning version of Tommy, you know, he's got bubbles coming up out of his mouth all the time, is sitting at the diner with him going, I want my book back. I want, you already used it, I want it back. And he's saying, no, I need it. You know, I tried writing my second book by myself. You saw how that worked out. I needed to write another book. So I don't know. He's, you know, clearly haunted in his own way. I guess the other one odd thing is in here. She has a dream at the beginning of it where she meets Dad. And Dad, from the first issue we saw when he had his stroke, he's like in a land. It's a city built out of radios, and there's lots of buzzing and radio talk and stuff. And she kind of sees him there in a dream, and then she wakes up.
Yep, holding the baby.
Right. I like this book, but I'm not like gonzo about this book. There are just elements of it that I feel like I've either read or seen someplace else. And I'm trying to place that. And I'm almost reading it as much for that as I am reading for what it is, kind of a thing. I'm enjoying it, but like I said, it's not the first thing I want to rush to read. What do you think of it, Rez?
When I read it, the first thought that comes to my mind is very similar to his work in Essex County, which I really, really enjoyed. I remember I was so adamant against actually getting Essex County because I felt like, you know, everybody's talking about it, everybody's saying how great it is. And I was like, I don't want to see how great it is. I want to not like it, you know. So I ended up actually getting a sample of the book, and I read it. And I was like immediately enthralled with it. I was like, this is so good. Like, oh my goodness. So when I read this, I get the same feeling. It's a little more watered down because it's not delivering the same way that I was pulled in with Essex County. But I like where this is going. I honestly, when I read this, I feel like I'm watching one of those, like a very, very slow independent film that, you know, may not really necessarily have a point, but you're just pretty much viewing this film as a way to see a different dynamic in different family or social interactions with people, you know. So
Yeah.
I like this book in a lot of ways because it feels this this curiosity that I may have about other people and how they live their life and how they may communicate with each other. Like we see that this woman, Tara, she suffered from a miscarriage, maybe more than once, and she's just tired. She's very exhausted with trying. Her husband kind of wants to still lean towards trying. He says something. He's very rough in his demeanor. He's very aggressive and kind of insensitive. And then he says something to her that just really tips her off to the point where not only because he's boycotting her or this whole entire real estate transaction going through, but then the fact that he's just insensitive towards her and what she wants to do with her own body, she feels like, well, you know what? After all this is done, said and done, after I beat you, we will get divorced. And I felt like, wow, that's something that does happen. You know, you have things like this happen in real life. You have like where the author, the one who stole his brother's journal, you know, where him and his wife are distant, they're apart. You have things like that happen as well. It's so slice of life that, you know, it can err on the side of boring for some, and then it can err on the side of where it's intriguing because you're learning, like I said, the dynamics of how other people might communicate. So it feels very, very real. That's one thing that I can say this comic exudes, opposed to some other things where you could tell it's definitely science fiction. While when you're reading this, it feels like something that actually may have occurred, may have happened. So
yeah, and I agree with that. And maybe part of my problem is I don't trust Jeff Lemire. And maybe that's part of, instead of just reading each issue and just enjoying it for what it is, because you're right, and that's a good description of it. It's kind of like the indie film kind of a thing where you just kind of go along for the ride. You're seeing this kind of, you know, other than the ghost thing, you know, I mean, it is very slice of life. You got these kind of relationships and these breaking down. It feels very real and all that, and that's all to me. That's enjoyable stuff. I enjoy not necessarily seeing people have horrible lives, but just enjoy, you know, seeing real life kind of stuff and whatnot, you know, creating in comic books, and I enjoy that. It's just, you know, I've got the things like I never really dug like Descender. I still feel upset over the ending of Trillium. So I guess I have that kind of stuff in my head while I'm thinking, and I'm like, and some part of me wants to stay on edge, I guess, while I'm reading this to go, yeah, you know,
Plutonia.
Yeah. When are you gonna cheat me somewhere? You know, because somehow I'm gonna feel cheated. You know what I mean? So I guess maybe I need to let go of that and just read and enjoy what's here. And then at the end of it, if I get cheated, I can then rant and rave and whatnot. But I think that's part of what holds me back on not like really loving it, is the fact that I just, there's been some stuff that I've read of his that I have not been excited by, or I liked it and then get the end of it, it's kind of like, no, come on. So I know this is supposed to be long told. It's going to be a long, you know, kind of a, you know, story. It's not something that's going to be over with quickly. Maybe that's going to be a good thing. I don't know. Yeah. And listen to you talk about it makes me appreciate it more. So that's good too. So that may be my hang up with the book is, like I said, that nervous, you know, what's at the end of it? You know, is it going to be something that's making me kind of want to throw the book across the room, or am I going to like it? Yeah. So.
It's definitely a toss up with Lemire. I just go in with a lot of indie books with no expectation whatsoever, and then, you know, I could be very, very highly disappointed or very pleasantly surprised and pleased. So, you know, I didn't know exactly what I was going to get with this.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I just feel like there's a lot of fusions of things that I've watched and have read before. As you said, it feels familiar. So I think that could be a good thing for some and bad thing, because it does exude that familiarity where when you're reading it, you're like, okay, this is something that's been done before. But I think what makes it unique is the fact that you have nothing else out right now that is at all like this. You don't have anything that's so somber and somewhat depressing, you know.
Oh, really, definitely. Who's having a good life? Who in that book is having a good life? There is not a single character that is not in the middle of some sort of their relationship collapsing, and a lot of work is going on and whatnot. I mean, you've got the younger brother, you know, who's clearly an addict. He spends more time, you know, wrecked, being drunk, barely makes it to work and whatnot. You've got the older brother who is desperately trying to write on a novel, can't get that down. His movie star wife clearly is sleeping with somebody else. You kind of get the impression. Has in the past, it probably is again. Their relationship is toast. Their long distance relationship is toast. That's pretty apparent. The sister, she's got the miscarriage issue. She's clearly asking for potentially a divorce. She's her development deal that she's basically spent all of her life, working to get this development deal done, might be going under because her husband is throwing her under the bus. That, there's that. The husband's clearly not enjoying life either, because his wife basically is screwing him out of a job, at some point. I mean, yeah, she'll be making more money, but this is still his job. This is what he's been doing. This is what he's been, been going to the factory and doing his job pretty much his whole working life. You get the impression. And she seems, he's insensitive to her situation with the whole miscarriage thing, but I think she's insensitive to how is this going to affect him. I mean, yeah, simply she'll be making more money, and that's good in that aspect, but it's still, if that's what you've been spending your life doing, to suddenly have your spouse blow up what you've spent your adulthood doing, is upsetting. I don't think either one of them have had that conversation. Mom clearly is a freaking basket case, because just the way she treats her children, the way she interacts with them and whatnot. That guy she meets in the hospital, is that somebody that she's had an affair with?
I was just about to say that. It's so crazy how much everyone's livelihood is affected within this book, which again, it's like I said, so unique in so many ways. And I mean, you see this mother that we all, like you said, she's a basket case. What's going on with her? And then we see this guy that seeming, is somewhat revealed as an ex-lover that has spurned her in some way, either has maybe revealed himself, and that's where the angsty feelings and the feelings of contention have come out, because she's really like, what are you doing here? There's no reason for you to speak to me. Something happened there. Something awful. I'm waiting for that to be revealed.
There's one character that's probably having a good time right now. Dad. No, Dad.
Oh yeah, because
dad's in a coma, asleep, and he's in this la la land with all the radios rocking his son, his infant son. So he's the one living the good life. Everybody else is a train wreck, though. So yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So what does that say about us that we like these books while the depressing stuff happens?
I know, right? You gotta use a little bit of sadness every now and again.
Well, that, and it's like, see, my life isn't that bad, because clearly there's these people. So,
Yeah, exactly. You just gotta reflect a little bit. Like, hey, you know what? I think I have it good right now.
yeah, for sure. All right, right on. What else you want to talk about, Rez?
Let's see. I want to talk about this book, The Night Owl Society, published by IDW. This is issue number 2. I really enjoyed this issue. There were some hiccups here. One, they did a flash forward, like complete flash forward. Like, I mean, we sped up quite a bit, significantly to the point where I was like, whoa, hold on, rewind. Why are we here already? Because the first issue was this of course this team assembling itself. We have the one boy, I believe his name's Sean, maybe, where he's trying to get a group of students that he finds that have the particular characteristics that he needs for this group to gel cohesively to take down this crime syndicate boss, which we already for issue 1 know that is his father. This group that he's assembled, they do not know that. So this is one little secret that he's holding from them. Eventually in this issue, we find out more about the death of the priest that this boy has taken a liking to, and exactly why he died, which that was one of the hiccups for me. Apparently the father killed the priest because he felt like if he killed the priest, his son would become closer to him and his family unit would be more gelled. And it wasn't a compelling enough reason for me to see why his father just callously killed a freaking priest that really didn't have that much of a connection to his son. I mean, you could tell his son looked up to the priest when he was in class, and he'd answer questions and be really into depth with what he studied with the Bible. But I didn't feel like the priest and his son was that close to the point where it justified his father murdering this man. And then we didn't have really explanation of how the son discovered that his father murdered this priest like this. We also see that the son eventually gets found out by his friends. His friends eventually find out that his father is a crime syndicate, and of course they leave. They're upset. They're like, "Well, screw you, buddy. You didn't tell us this. We're supposed to work together. You didn't tell us anything about this." And another small hiccup for me was the fact that this team was so stealthy, and of course that has something to do with the speed up. The time frame, like where the first issue was the team gets set up. They went on a small little mission of some sort, trying to stop all these different shipments from getting delivered. So all the drugs, they're trying to stop it from happening. But then we jump to the second issue where they're already they're knocking out shipments left and right. And the father's business kind of suffering at this point. People are not getting paid, or they're worried about getting paid on time. And it seems like the father, when he was talking to one of his employees, and the employee was questioning him and how, what the security of his job, the father seemed to be looking at his desk at a picture of his son. So I feel like his father knows that this is his son rebelling against him in some degree. Just a lot of stuff going on. It's still an enjoyable book. I'm still very curious of what's going to happen next. I did enjoy this issue, but like I said, there are issues here that I think need to be worked out a tad bit.
Right.
And hopefully it does, work itself out by time issue 3 comes along. Because I do enjoy it, and I do like the illustration style. I do like the covers that they provide for this. And although it feels like a run-of-the-mill kind of story where you have something like that going on, it feels unique enough for me to continue pulling.
Cool.
Yeah.
So there's some plotting issues, maybe, huh? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see. I want to briefly talk about this. This is the Wicked and Divine. This is a one-shot. This is actually 455 AD. So this tells about the gods, because every 90 years they come back. They go through a cycle of 2 years of being alive, then they all end up dead, and in some sense or another, and then it starts over again. It's this whole cycle is supposedly part of the whole fighting the darkness that's going to take over the world if these guys don't keep coming back and burning as bright as they do and whatnot. This entire issue is basically Lucifer. It is Lucifer-driven issue. For people who are familiar with the way Wicked and Divine usually works, you typically can open it up, and here will be this circle, and it'll be all these different symbols of all the different gods. And usually if there's a skull by it, that god is gone. So there's only one god in this issue. The rest of them are already dead. So this issue is it's Lucifer in 455 AD. It's a he this time, has decided that he is Julius Caesar. He's not Lucifer. He's Julius Caesar. He's renaming himself the Greek god Julius Caesar. Roman god Julius Caesar, and he is going to be Julius Caesar, and he's not going to die when his 2 years are up. Nothing bad's going to happen to him. He's going to go on and do stuff, and he goes out and he wipes out the Vandals. The Vandals are coming. This is when the Vandals are going to sack Rome. In history, in our official history, in 455 AD, the Vandals make it clear down. The Germanic Vandals get clear down into Rome. They sack Rome. They burn everything, wreck everything, and it's all a big giant disaster. He's going to make sure that doesn't happen. He literally goes over the mountainside in these first couple panels, and there's fireworks go off. And remember, this is, there's no explosions like this in 455 except for volcanoes. But anyway, he blows everybody up, blows up the Vandals, wipes them out, saves Rome. Everybody's like, yay, he's the new, he's new Julius Caesar. Julius Caesar's been dead for 200 years or something like that. But he's the new Julius Caesar. Everybody's like, yay, Julius Caesar, he's awesome, kind of thing. And he keeps reassuring people that he's not going to go Caligula. He's not going to go crazy. He's not going to be Nero. He's not going to do all this stuff. Anka, the person that kind of is in charge of all the godlings, she shows up and she's trying to say, you can't do this. You can't. This is not how things are supposed to be working. You're Lucifer, blah, blah. And he's like, no, I'm not Lucifer. I'm this other god now. I'm not dying in 2 weeks. This is not happening. She's like, finally, she goes, okay, fine. In 2 weeks, if you're not dead, if you haven't died, you can kill me, because he's threatening to kill her because she's kind of a pain in the ass. But if in 2 weeks you're not dead, you can kill me because obviously I'm wrong then. And they agree to that. Well, so he kind of goes on a rampage and kind of makes all kinds of a mess of things during that time. And it gets down to the end of the 2 weeks. And at the end of the 2 weeks, he has completely lost it. He has gone full on Caligula. He has taken the Senate, the Roman Senate. He has butchered them all. He has turned them into instruments. I mean, he's playing a harp that is a guy's skull, his head. It's still got his flesh head, but it's his spine all stretched out and some gut between some bones. And he's playing a harp, and he's talking about how Nero played a fiddle when Rome burned. Well, maybe you should have played a harp. Just totally goes nuts. He melts down. I mean, he literally lights on fire. His eyes fall out of his head. He literally dies, and crumbles to nothing, kind of a thing. And then in the courtyard, and Anka comes out after he's burnt himself up and died, and chops his body up into little pieces and starts throwing it in the river, and they're washing away. And a vandal shows up, and he's like, what's going on here, woman? And he's getting ready to like beat her up or whatever. And she knows exactly who he is. And she tells him, this is who you are. You're going to sack Rome. Everything's going to be fine. And he's like, well, what about all this? And he goes, you're not going to, none of this stuff matters. I want to make this disappear. I want it so it never happened. So it's never in the history books, because I don't want any other gods to go this route. I don't want any other gods to think they can wait until they just fall apart and die. Because we found out in the main title, she sacrifices them. She actually kills them. And supposedly her secret sacrifices is what's keeping the darkness away.
Whoa, go back. So she's killing these gods at 2 years. It's not really them dying. It's her killing.
Well, she doesn't kill this god. He actually does fall apart the 2 years. He actually does. And I don't know if it's under his own insanity or if literally they do have a ticker, and when they reach that point, they fall apart. But she acts like she can't let them do this. She can't let the gods think they have an option of literally running out to the end, kind of a thing. So she chops his body up, throws it in the river, and hides it. And we go back to understanding history is that the Vandals sacked Rome in 455. When if Lucifer hadn't lost it and fell apart and burned up, when they tried attacking, he could have went out, snapped his fingers, and nuked them all to death, right? I mean, it would be no big deal.
Mm-hmm.
So she's hiding the body and making sure history doesn't know about this. So we, using this as a frame of reference as to what's happening in our current book, in the current time, they've gotten rid of her. Yeah. Are they going to make it? Are they going to make it past the 2 years? Are they going to fall apart at 2 years? Is that what happens? Is the darkness going to consume them? We don't know. But it's kind of interesting to see a prior god and what happens. And she didn't want that to happen. But of course, she's dead now, so there's no way for her to stop it by sacrificing them. So what's going to happen to our characters in the regular book? Are they going to start? They killed her. Oh, Persephone blows her up.
Oh yeah.
She goes,
why did I drop this book?
She blows her. Well, now see, reading it in singles, I get why some people drop it, because lots of times it's like, okay, it's a lot of information. Nothing's necessarily happening. And then all of a sudden they will drop a bomb and 6 issues suddenly lock into place. All that setup you didn't realize was set up all suddenly works really well together. You pull out the old issues going, oh shit, oh yeah, kind of thing. But I get, if you aren't aware of that, it's easy to go, forget about it and don't read it or whatever, kind of a thing. But it goes nuts. It's nuts right now. It's almost all action, kind of crazy stuff going on now. So
the same one who was killing this is the same older woman who was killing all of them off, right?
Yes, she's the one at the very beginning after Lucy, killed those people. She executes Lucy. You probably read at least to that point, right? Where they killed Lucifer.
I believe, because I read it in
Yeah. So the old woman that walks up and blasts Lucifer in the back of the head.
Yeah.
Just try and solve the problem. Yeah,
that's her.
Yeah. And I mean, they have a machine and they're going to grind the gods up and all this different stuff and whatnot. And they kind of catch wind of it because Persephone, Lori, she ends up becoming a god, and she wrecks him. She wrecks her. Spoilers all over the place for that, but yeah.
I liked her. I was mad when she was killed. Like when
makes her a god for 2 pages of the comic and then caps her in the back of the head. Yes,
exactly. Because she just found out she was a god. She just found out she's Persephone, and then they just killed her. Like while she's talking to her parents, like she just talked to her parents and then killed her. I was like, you bitch! Like I was so
exactly. exactly.
I can't even. I was like, it took me. I was like, I read the next,
Well,
I think, trade or two, and then I just couldn't anymore. I was so mad. I was
Yeah.
still mad about that. I was still rolling in.
that was so nuts because, of course, we get our comics on. Me and you get our comics on Fridays or Saturdays, right? Fridays.
Yeah.
So I went to a Comic Con when that happened.
Yeah.
That comic came out on Wednesday, and I'm at the con on Friday and Saturday, and I can't figure out why everybody is pissed off at Karen Gillian and Jim McKelvey. They're there at the con, and everybody's like, oh, all up in uproar. I'm like, I'm sitting in this, on this panel that's all Wicked and Divine. That's the entire panel, and I'm like going, what the hell happened this week? Right? People are losing their. I mean, they finally go, okay, warning, anybody who's here, if you haven't read this yet, it's going to get spoiled for you, and I just like, okay, well, it's going to get spoiled for me. And I'm like, they said what happened. I'm like, what? Kind of thing. Yeah.
That's how I looked when I read it.
Well, trust me, that's how everybody was. Everybody was reading that book when that happened. I mean, the panel was packed. There were probably 200 people in the place, and they were all like, ah! It was crazy. It was crazy. So, but I really enjoyed the book. And like I said, some of that slow stuff that was at the beginning, now it's all just paying back in huge dividends kind of thing. So whereas this issue had nothing to do with the characters we're reading about or whatever, it still has to kind of do with what's going on and the sense of what's going to be there and stuff. So it was interesting. Yeah. Cool. What else, Rez? What else?
Let's see. I read this Ian Livingstone's Freeway Fighter, which is part of his fighting fantasy realm. It was originally a series of novels that now has been adapted into a comic adaptation, which I surprisingly really enjoyed. Like it's a really setty uppy kind of comic for first issue. Like, we have this main character, and her name is, what is it? I try to remember it for the damn thing. De La Rosa. Okay, I didn't even read it. I just remember it on top of my head. But we have this woman, De La Rosa, and she's racing against this one guy, and we almost think by a hair she's gonna lose, but she somehow gets the best of him, and she comes in first place. And then it flash forwards to 2 years later in the year 2024, where 18 months ago the world was fine. Now it was a virus that just wiped out the whole damn world. We have this Mad Maxy world. Like when I was reading it, I said, okay, this feels very Mad Maxy. We had this woman, her decked out car. Okay.
So the cover definitely looks like it. So yeah.
Yeah. Like this is the cars before, as you can see, very standard racing cars to, and, after this race, now it's like a killing machine, Yeah. And you see her, she's racing to get away from this one guy, and I guess he has a passenger in there. The car, she makes a flip, and the guy, of course, gets hurt, and he's like, hey, help me, I need help. Hey, I said help me. And she's like, you're right, you do need help. And then she kills him and then siphons his gas. And I'm like, oh, wow, okay, this is definitely Mad Max. Like, it has that. So if you're like into Mad Max, you would love this because it has that feel, and it has that post-apocalyptic feel where The Walking Dead mixed in with Contagion / Mad Max, and even in the where not really back matter, but because they put it in front, we're listening. We're not really listening, but reading what Ian Livingstone's intentions were for this, and the character. And he's talking about the actual history of the book and how it got started. We learned that we learned more about what his inspiration was, and we learned that Mad Max was the inspiration for this particular series, which I found very intriguing because that's what it reminded me of. So I really like that, even though you can off the bat say, hey, it's not really original. I mean, by any stretch of the imagination, not original at all. But I like seeing that he did say, hey, this is what I got that's why I wrote Freeway Fighter, and it talks about the car being the car on the cover being an inspiration for a car he actually owned at one point that was, I think, that was stolen, badly vandalized, as he said. And then we learned about the artist who worked on the covers for the books and for the comics. Apparently that artist passed away right before he was actually called to have this solicited as a comic. So yeah, you learn so much. I liked it a lot. You know, the main character, De La Rosa, she's a tough woman. You know, we see her trying to survive. I mean, she even mentions it in here. You know, she went from being a driver of a vehicle to being a survivor of this post-apocalyptic world where this virus outbreak has started. We don't see any kind of attempts for her to try to find out. We don't know if her mission is to find out what started this virus, which, you know, we find in a lot of these shows and stuff. We just pretty much see her, you know, just driving. So
Cool.
I really like this.
Cool. Right on. Let's see. Girl Scouts, Magic Socks. So this is a Jim Mufford comic. Basically.
Yeah.
So this is a kind of a vapid story as far as it does. I mean, it's not like any earth-shattering, you know, kind of a thing. I love the art. Manfred art is very kinetic. It's very loose, and you know, having it with some good eye-popping, you know, colors and whatnot. I really appreciate it and really like it. Like I said, visually for the art and stuff, you know, stuff like this page here of her wandering, this woman wandering through a club. You know, and even the way the colorist that does the coloring on it, you know, the different colors for the foreground and background and middle ground and stuff like that, with our character being, you know, our main character being the only thing that's truly, you know, completely colored. It's basically about these three girls who were called the Girl Scouts because they sold marijuana. That's their job, and they would sell it by packaging it inside Girl Scout cookies, and that's how they'd sell it. They'd move their product through Girl Scout cookies. This is there have been one or two other Girl Scout comics before this in years past. And in this adventure, the three of them are not together right now. They're kind of coming back together again because we find out that one of the characters, who is the biggest, kind of craziest loudmouth of them, Daphne, she her cousin has gotten out of the lunatic bin, the insane asylum, and she's gunning people down now, and she's looking for her cousin because her cousin did all this horrible stuff to her. We find out in a flashback that as kids, she picked on her about on everything, teased her about everything. If they were going to do any crazy, weird kid experiments, she was always the one that got experimented on. What happens if you mix, turpentine and Kool-Aid and you drink it, what happens to you? They give it to her, just all this horrible stuff to her. So she's out to get them and stuff. And the other two girls are maybe not necessarily wanting to have anything to do with her. The crazy cousin is put on Twitter that she's hunting them down. People are really getting into the idea of it. She has this app that she uses. It's called like Bang or something like that. And literally, it's Pow app, and it's copyrighted already. So don't try stealing it. So she literally whips out her phone here. There's the Pow app, right? It shows a gun, and it literally makes a gun and blah, blah, blah. I mean, she shoots her mother to death with it. So they're walking around with their smartphones, and they whip out it. And they get the Pow app, the Pow app out, and they shoot people with it, kind of thing. One of Daphne's friends, one of the other Girl Scouts, Gwen. Gwen is looking for her because she has these secret weapons she doesn't know about, and the secret weapon is her magic socks, and that's how the issue ends with the whole magic sock kind of thing. Like I said, it's completely random. It's super vapid. I mean, Daphne is a total drug head. She's in a club being a quasi stripper. She's really there to sell drugs. The club owner is pissed because, she's supposed to just be, doing her job, not selling product in his store. She's very much the, wow, hey, just, chill out, man, cool, groovy kind of thing. They fight really awesome and stuff, but really it comes down to, she's just kind of I don't know. She's very vapid. She actually abandoned her two friends. They were fighting pirates back in the last issue or some other, last comic or something like that. And so they don't really have a high opinion of her because she kind of left me out. And she's like, oh, you guys are a bunch of pussies. Just suck it up and roll with it. Cause that's what we do. It's all cool now and groovy and whatnot. But yeah, she has these magic socks. Like I said, visually, I love the comic just for the whole, I just love this really loose, pen and ink kind of a thing. There's this great backstory in here that basically tells us how the comic was, here's a little mini comic of how the comic came about to being. So you get the entire experience of Manfred was trying to be an inker for the big two. It really wasn't working out for him. So, he developed this story, Girl Scouts. He made the comic, started selling it locally. The Girl Scouts of America sent him a cease and desist letter because he was actually using the official Girl Scouts spelled properly his name. He got in all kinds of trouble. So one of his friends goes, hey, dude, why don't you change it to, the name a little bit? Change the spelling. It'll be cool. And so, of course, he changed it to the girl, like Riot Girls, for those of us who lived back in the 90s who remember the Riot Girl scene. So gave it 2 R's and the L in there as opposed to the I. So everything's cool, sure, cool. And here he is. He even goes so far as to tell the future that this is a smashing, successful hit, and they all live happily ever after, and all party and dance naked there at the end. So.
I know, I love that part.
Right. But like I said, it's got this great, hey, you should sign up for the letters page because if you write something in for the letters page, you can get some cool art from him. To me, this is just all rock star art not in the nice, clean, fashionable big two art style, but like I said, just somebody who's not afraid to be really loose with a pen and just go crazy kind of stuff. I dig it. It's like I said, the story itself is probably, I don't know, to me, kind of meaningless and just kind of silly. It's just kind of this thing. For me, it's all about this nutsy art. I dig it. I dig it for that. So, Les, what did you think?
I told you I collected some back issues of Girl Scouts.
Oh, sweet.
The first volume, and I forgot a lot of what I read. I remember I liked it enough, and I was excited about this, especially the fact that Bill Sienkiewicz was doing covers for it, which is why I decided to get this particular cover. But I think when I first started reading one of the characters in here who's just had this very certain way of speaking that could be kind of offensive. Oh,
yes. Dropping the N-word. Yes. Yeah.
And I was like, and for me reading that, I was like, this is choice word, yeah. Choice word, Yeah. I was like, this, damn it, like, not again. Like, why can't we just have someone, and then, it was even worse because it wasn't someone who was of color saying that.
Exactly.
Which made me even more angry. Like, I understand if the guy was someone who would use that vernacular and is, of my skin tone, I would be more okay and more accepting of that. But the fact that Jan Mahfoud is clearly not of African-American descent, he's saying that. No. I was like, not acceptable, dude, not acceptable. I understand this is very fringy and very, out there. And,
edgy and right, yeah.
Yeah, but no, dude, you don't have no pass. Say, even if it's a comic, like, I just don't like it. It wasn't tasteful for me when I first started reading that. I was like, this could have been still the same premise. We had these girls selling drugs, but why did it have to go there? And I tried to look past that, and I read the rest of the comic, and it was okay enough. But for that one big hiccup for me in the very beginning, I was like, no. and I don't really recall it being like that in the first one. So I'm a little taken aback. I may want to go back to the first volume and reread that. But I do want to say, I did go back and I watched the film on the YouTube. YouTube, his film actually, his comic got made into a film, and I watched it and I really enjoyed it. I think they picked some really good, cool girls to depict Daphne, Gwen, and Rita. Perfect.
Yeah, right there's basically the ad for it. Yeah.
Yep. And so I watched it. I watched 14 minutes of glory. It was really cute. It was really, really, it felt like it was going for cult status, which, you see a lot of these films these days trying to hit that. If they're not going to hit the box office kind of, success, then they try to go after something that's going to be more obtainable, which is cult status, which may take a little longer to reach people, but they know it's going to be something that's going to be played throughout history. And so I definitely feel like this Girl Scouts has that flair where it could be something that will be taken out and taken as a cult thing, but something about it just doesn't quite meet it, all the criteria for me. It's just something about it. Maybe it was just that first part that really turned me off a lot.
Right.
But again, if I look past that and I just read it, it's cute. It's cute. But it's all I can say as far as.
Yeah, I mean, clearly, that that character say that much on the, and that's what I was thinking too. I'm like, oh, okay, that's kind of, it's, like a stereotype in a way almost. It was kind of like, I mean, clearly there are people who use the word, and there are, and I know that the word gets used, and the character who's saying it is a person of color, right?
Yeah.
So, and I know that there are, people of color who do use that with each other, and whatever. That's cool. That is its own thing. But I think, like, from your perspective, the Manford, the writer of the book, and the creator of the book, is not. And so, therefore, I think you have to be very careful about how you go about using it. And I think in this case, the way the guy is using it, the character in the book is using it and whatnot, is extremely stereotypical.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's okay, because so much of the rest of this is kind of stereotypical. You know what I mean? Stereotyped in a bad kind of a way.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not justifying him using, let's get that clear here now and whatnot. I mean, for me, it's a word I would never in any shape or form use, because I just don't know. I don't know how I personally could use it and justify saying it's okay to use.
Yeah.
Kind of a thing. And I feel like that's, if I was Manford, that's how I'd be. But there's lots in this comic that's kind of that way, in a way too. I mean, these girls are wearing, they're wearing the tightest of hot pants you possibly could have. I mean, there's just lots of things about the comic that it's they're cool, they kick ass, but they're also hypersexualized. It's clearly a book that does not even flinch at drug culture. That's all cool, that's all hip. So I don't know if that's just, if using that vernacular there and whatnot is just part of it being hip and cool and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
In my opinion, it'd be a mistake, and certainly totally hear what you're saying. You thinking it's a mistake, kind of thing to do that. So that is a problem. I thought, but
it didn't sound right though. And you remember in some parts where he was speaking his jargon and having little idioms and stuff. It didn't even sound right. It just didn't sound. It just it was one line. I was like, what the did I just freaking read? Like this is even sound like good slang, and I'm not a really good slang person either. But it sounded like something I would probably have said. Like the way it was worded it sounds so awful. But I was like, it was something where a line where he was like, and tell them something white something. I don't know, where is it? Yeah, it was pull that skank school back to the crate to the crate to the cranium white. I'm like, shouldn't it be like pill that skank skull back to the white cranium? I mean, like, I don't know. It just it didn't sound right.
His jargon all the way through it is not real good.
Yeah, I know they're probably trying to depict these criminals as being stupid and not really being speak well. Maybe I could.
But they're trying to make him talk like, I don't know how do you want to call it? It's like they're trying to make him talk
urban.
They're trying to make him talk the current equivalent to jive talk.
Yeah.
Except it does not. Of course, I live in the middle of the widest of America, so all I've got is what TV and movies provide me. So I'm clueless to some degree, but this does not sound right.
Yeah,
it doesn't. And Rez is right. It does not line up to anything. It doesn't sound like jive from like the 70s, right? And it doesn't sound like anything that I'm aware of that would be kind of now.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even know
but
like that. That's just, it was the crazy part about it.
Right. But I will freely admit I am very white and do not have a thumb on the pulse of talking cool. So I don't know. Those are problems with it. I still liked it visually and whatnot. It's like I said, it's just kind of off the wall, and I can roll with it. Just like I said, this whole the rampant drug culture, blah 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 blah, is not my thing personally.
Mm-hmm.
But them just kind of throwing it out there in the face of everything is fun for that.
Mm-hmm.
I did like this splash page too, right here.
Oh, yeah.
Where this is one of the other Girl Scouts, and she's in her room. She's an artist. This wall is covered with record stuff and music. So there's Frank Zappa. It's got the Splits on here. It's got a whole bunch of music, and then music on this wall. All over the floor are Image Comics.
Yep.
I mean,
I need to point that out.
I hate Fairyland's down there. Southern Bastards, Bitch Planet. It's just got all kinds of.
Your favorite book, Low.
Yeah. Empty Zone is over there. I mean, it's got a lot of really kind of stuff in it. But I mean, like I said, it's got all this kind of wink. It's not pretentious, edgy, but it's definitely trying to be edgy. Kind of things.
I feel like I definitely attempt at doing
for me, 4 issues. This is going to be a fun, just kind of don't care about, but I'm just going to open up and go, wow, that looks like a lot of fun. Scribbling and whatnot. I mean, I appreciate that style of art, but I don't pick it up with any expectation. I'm gonna be enriched beyond just the visually seeing it that way. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So,
I like the film better, to be honest. I mean, this wasn't bad. I'm curious about the magic socks and how she obtained them. But after watching the little YouTube film, these girls get involved in a lot of different like weird things. Like in the film on YouTube. They fought the Illuminati.
Oh, sweet. So I'm gonna have to check that out. I saw that and I was like, oh, that's gonna be curious, but clearly today I did not have time to watch that. So I'll be jumping on that this weekend and
that's
a look to see what it's like.
Books that I was watching it and I'll watch the trailers first, and I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed the movie, but the comic was okay for me. It was just that one part tripped me up a little bit. I felt like it would have been I think it would have been even more smart. I don't think maybe he's not trying to be smart, but I think it would have been cooler if he just played that character where he was speaking in a different manner.
Yeah.
And it still could have went the same way. Yeah.
Totally hear what you're saying. Just looking at the comments, because it's been a while since there's been any comments, but Gore Vidal is on, and he's saying, evening, everyone. I really enjoyed the artwork in Girl Scouts, but not the writing. It felt like Bad Burrows. Edgar's bro, and it does. It does, for sure, kind of thing. Because he uses some of that vernacular and some of the stuff and whatnot of the era and that sort of thing. So I don't know. Yeah, like I said, writing wise, it wasn't super exciting, but like I said, I'll pick it up for the eye candy. I like that style of art. So.
I mean, I like the art too. I just kind of feel like there's people out there that are very super ignorant and dumb, and they'll look at that and think, oh, that's what I thought. All black people talk that way. They're stupid, and
so does that mean you're not going to pick up the other issues?
Did I already order? I'm pretty sure
we've ordered at least 2 issues, possibly 3.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm
of the 4.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I already have issues coming, but I don't know if I'm gonna get the final one. I mean, I don't know. We already got 1 or 2. We already got 1. Probably have 2 and 3 coming. So and it's probably going for 4. So it's a toss up on whether I'll continue on. You know how I'm dropping things left and right.
Sure.
Give me any reason, I'll drop it.
No. I was just curious. About that.
I'm not too. I mean, I want to say hard yes. I'll drop it, but then it's a possibility I might just go ahead and just have it complete and then sell it off or something. I don't know.
Cool. What else do you want to talk about?
Let's see. World Reader. World Reader number 2.
I did get to that one. Yeah.
Yes. You didn't get to it?
No, I did. I did get to this one. Yeah.
Okay. This issue didn't have the same momentum as issue 1 for me. It just felt. I felt like I was watching an old school, sci-fi, show, right? That was maybe like a filler episode where, we have obviously contention between the crew, and they have the one crew member it's going to be isolated from other, and then I mean everything that played out in this particular issue, I felt like I've seen before on TV somewhere, and it just didn't feel enjoyable to read. Like I felt like I could have passed on this and read something else in its place. I like the premise a lot. Like I like the fact that we have this woman who can go to different worlds and read how this race of people came to their extinction. I really like that. But the fact that this issue, we don't know why exactly this guy is so hard pressed on not believing anything about her. He makes sure to shout out that she's not really qualified to be a part of the crew. He doesn't really care about her. He doesn't really care about her job. He thinks she's a freaking nutcase. He wants her tied to the ship. And then her partner just complies with it. He's like, I'm not going to stand up for her. Screw it, whatever. She's, and then, they leave her on the ship. They go out to try to find out the root and the cause of these planets really dying. And I believe something else malfunctioned or something. And they try to stick her to the ship under the supervision of this robot of some sort. She says, you know what, screw this. I'm going out there. They're in danger. I got to help them. And then they catch her when she has some kind of fit after reading the planet and communicating with this one fish-looking guy that tells her that his planet had died because of him, pretty much, and that he was left behind to tell the story of the world. And he wants her to kill him, and she refuses. Her team that had made her stay in isolation, they say, you know what, we you can't go around stealing shuttle and and disobeying orders. And then she escapes, and I'm like, okay. I don't know. It just
yeah. The first issue sets up this crazy premise. It's kind of it's almost manic. She's because she has this kind of psychic ability to tap into world. She can like physically touch down, put her hands down, and she can see past lives that live there and whatnot, and kind of thing is her thing. Well, nobody believes her. I mean, because like if somebody came to me tomorrow and said they could do that, I'd go, yeah, okay, so you're off your lithium today. I mean, that would be my first thought. And that's how everybody's treating her. That's how everybody's treating her, and I get that. That's how they're treating her. And the guy that's in charge is like seemingly like ex-military, really stern. He thinks this is a really serious thing that's going on. They're finding these other worlds where other life has lived, but something has killed it off. And his goal is figure out what the hell it is, and is it coming to Earth? So her being all loopy and touching the ground and falling over and having seizures and drooling and all that, and then saying she talked to somebody, whatever, means jack shit to him. And I understand his character's perspective from that kind of, this is very business oriented. You're just some nutter that's in my way, causing us problems and slowing us down. Because I get the impression from this issue, what they're doing is they're scrubbing these planets. After they've gone there and they find out that no one's left alive, they annihilate the place. They bury it so no one else can find it. They're hiding it because they're keeping it a secret to the rest of Earth and Earthlings and humans that all these other civilizations are dead. They are finding world after world, and the civilizations there are dead. And so they don't want anybody on Earth, they don't want humans to know about it. It's all top secret. So after they've gone and they don't find anything, they are burning it. They're burning the place down, kind of a stuff. And I think they also feel like she's kind of loose cannon. But you're right, this issue was kind of a spin in place. Nothing really happens. I mean, so we got informed of all of that the first issue. This issue, we get more static about the fact they don't like her. We got that the first issue. They tell her she has to stay on ship. The ship's computer, Kirby, is going to make her stay there. She tricks Kirby. Well, this basically says, she's going to do all this awful stuff. She's going to pee in everybody's food if Kirby doesn't let her go. Right. So Kirby's like, oh, okay, fine, you can go. And she goes down and she discovers another person. One person on this planet that's still alive. We kind of get his story about who he is. That was somewhat interesting. But then we end with her running away again without anything being resolved whatsoever, or actually moving the needle forward any further. We don't know anything about. There's some entity that she's discovered is consuming all these dead souls, so they don't exist anymore, literally eating them up. For whatever reason, he left this one guy behind, this one soul behind. but it didn't move the needle forward anywhere as far as storytelling goes, really. So I like the comic. I like the way it looks. I like the idea of it. If the next issue doesn't move the needle again, I'm probably done with it, just because they don't know how to tell a story. You know, it's a cool idea, but you need to be able to execute it. So I want the next issue to move the needle. If it doesn't move it, I don't know why I'm reading it.
Mm-hmm.
You know? So, more along the lines of Aftershocks comics. I actually had like 5 Aftershock comics this week. I don't know what's up with that. I got Animosity issue number 7. Love this cover. I love the whole, you know, sainted type cover and whatnot. This is a comic written by Marguerite Bennett, art by Raphael Del Latore. It doesn't move very fast either, but I kind of like what's going on. Most of this issue is them fighting this big vulture that's kind of controlled things. That gets called the Dragon. They fight it and take care of it. The vulture has this barn that has all kinds of animals hooked on hooks in it that are dead, that they're eating and whatnot. This vulture has somehow forced herbivores into helping murder other animals and eat the animals, you know, because that's what they need to do, kind of a thing. The vulture doesn't ever really kill anything, because of course the vulture just eats the carrion and stuff. They end up fighting this vulture and kind of taking care of that. This barn is like a house of horrors, and they keep telling the young girl that's in this to not look up, not to look at all these animals that are hooked on hooks and stuff. And there's some conflict between the group of animals over the fact that the dog and some of the other animals are trying to keep her sheltered, to not know what the real world is actually like. And they keep telling her that they're doing her a disjustice by not telling her how evil people and animals can actually be. So there's conflict in the story around that that's kind of interesting. What's even more interesting is after they leave and they're kind of moved away, they're making a camp, the dog and the cat, there's this cat that's with them, they go back to the barn to like bury the bodies. They only bury some of the bodies. Some of the other bodies, they actually are drying the meat out, and they're taking it with them because, of course, they need food. They have to eat. And they have this great conversation about the fact that if they get old or they die in battle, you know, don't tell, I can't remember the girl's name off the top of my head, Sally, I want to say, don't tell Sally, you know, that this is what's happened or whatever. But when you're away from me, go back, skin me, dry me out, and eat me, because you know you're going to need the food. You know, him and the cat have this really kind of conversation about the fact that, you know, because I mean, it's cannibalism, but it's not cannibalism at the same time, right? I mean, we as humans, unless you're a vegetarian, we eat animals. That's, you know, a fact kind of thing. And animals eat other animals, you know, herbivores and not herbivores, but omnivores and carnivores all eat animals, right? All eat meat. So this is how things work. How does it work now that we're all sentient, kind of thing? So there's this whole kind of conversation, which is kind of interesting and cool too. They're headed to California. They're headed to San Francisco. They are at the border of Virginia right now. So they got a long ways to go. So it's still an interesting story.
Sounds like my Manifest Destiny. I mean, that is going to be a long running book.
Yeah.
I hopefully it stays good for you.
Yeah. I think we'll see. We'll see what exactly how it is. It isn't always a fast book either, but I still like I still like it though. It's an interesting premise, and when there's some dry moments in it, there's all these other moments that you kind of go, oh crap, or they address kind of these weird conversations about, you know, how does this work now that we're in this kind of, you know, place where we can all talk to each other and whatnot. You know, how you decide who you're eating and when, you know, kind of a thing. So yeah. And how often do you run into somebody else? Do you make the decision? Are they food? Or are they friends? Or are they just somebody you ignore and walk on your way? Right? They're part of it. So go ahead, Mike.
I was going to mention I picked up Mirror Broken, and this is based off of the Star Trek original series where Kirk was able to, due to a transporter issue, if I remember correctly, ends up in this alternate world where Spock is evil and is become in charge of things. The artwork on the cover kind of doesn't show it accurately, but inside you get nearly in like an Alex Ross realistic style art. Captain Picard there with his sleeves ripped off. He's all muscular, with the nice beard. So they are the evil remnant of Spock's world. You know, he has created this, empire, and it's very interesting. They interact with not Cardassians, Cardassians, and Klingons. So it was nice. It was just the interesting version of the, alternate crazy world that you see on some of these. I love Next Gen growing up. My wife also enjoys it. So I originally kind of bought it for her. I don't know that she'll get a chance to read it for a while.
Okay. I was going to ask if she liked it, but she hasn't read it yet. Okay.
Yeah, no. I'm sure she'll enjoy it, but she actually would probably prefer the real storylines, the continuing story of Next Gen. So
sure. Well, cool.
Yeah. So it was good, and like I said, that artwork is what I like. I like that photorealistic feel to it. So
yeah,
and I'm sure it's going to be a short run, but it's a good book. So
cool, and that's an IDW.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, because they buy the rights to that.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Rez, got other books you want to talk about?
Let's see. I really enjoyed from Graphic India, Deepak Chopra's Beyond. This is issue number 4 of 4. And we come to an end with this story pretty much where the main character was a very busy businessman who never really had time for his wife and his child, his teenager. And we learned that from the first issue, and it just comes full circle where he pretty much learns to appreciate his family more when his wife disappears into another dimension of some sort. We find out that he is some sort of like god of some sort, or some kind of, I guess, tool of the gods, where he actually is technically lived many lives, but for some reason at one point he convinced himself that he was living in one world, one life, and he forgot who he was and was living as his businessman. But he comes face to face with this one character, fights him and wins, after losing a few times, and he ends up back with his family. It was wrapped up very neatly. I mean, I liked it a lot. I mean, I haven't had a problem with this particular series. It's a sci-fi story at heart, where we have, them traveling from different dimension to dimension, him learning that there are multiple worlds, and that there was this one character that wanted to, get all the worlds together and destroy everything. His main purpose was just to destroy, not for anything else. He just wanted to destroy. And so seeing him actually turn from this one very, very serious businessman to someone who now believes in the beyond was pretty cool. I mean, was it the best book of the year? No, but I like seeing, like I said, diversity in comics, and so I enjoyed seeing this and reading it.
Cool. The only other book that I have read this week is Eleanor and the Ygritte. Another Aftershock Comics. This is issue number 2. I'm done with this book. Probably. I mean, I'm gonna get a couple more issues, but I'm not gonna order anymore. Whereas I do kind of like the style of the art, because of course it's Sam Keith, and I do kind of like his style and whatnot. There's just not enough actually here going on. So we get another issue where our main character, our title characters there are, they do another heist. They steal some more paintings. They're stealing paintings from the same, all by the same artist. And and the Ygritte consumes these paintings. Now the thing is so huge that Eleanor can sit on its back as it flies around, kind of thing, because it's eaten so many paintings that it's gotten giant size, a bird now and whatnot. Our detective character is under a lot of pressure to find out who these people are that are stealing this stuff. He goes to the zoo, finds out that he got duped by Eleanor, that there really isn't a albino whatever parrot that she said the feather was that he found. So he knows he needs to be looking for her. The police commissioner makes him go and meet the artist they're stealing this stuff from. And, she is basically telling him that he's going to set a trap, basically tells him what he's going to do. He's going to set a trap to trap this, person. He wants to know she wants to know what the person's name is. He does give her a name. So she has hired some other secret person to go hunt this woman down and take care of Eleanor before they can set a trap and arrest her, kind of thing. And the creepy thing that is going to hunt them down, I don't know if it's out of a painting, but it's supposedly in the waiting room, is this ridiculous looking fellow here with the, I don't know, mushy hand and the giant worm thing on a chain. I don't know. But there's just not enough. There's not enough value in the storytelling. Some of the art there's just odd things about it, and it's the artist trying to be cute by just putting in whatever kind of a thing. Like this, they're at the zoo. I mean, okay, they're at the zoo. I don't know. Do I need that much page of tiger and rhino when that's got nothing to do other than they're in the zoo? I don't know. It feels like they give a lot of room to the artist to kind of draw whatever he wants to, and then they're writing around whatever that's drawn. And I guess that works for some people. That doesn't always work for me. I'm just not getting enough out of it. I want to get more out of it. And I don't know if it's John Layman's at fault, if Sam Keefe's at fault, or both of them are at fault together. Just, not feeling it. Not excited about it. So I'll inevitably have a couple more issues to talk about, I'm sure, but won't be.
Is it wrong that I'm offended that the egret is actually eating the art? I'm like,
well, they kind of say here what it is, because she comments on the fact that they're not thieves, even though they're stealing this art. That they're
they're destroyers of art. That's what they are.
Right. And there's some funniness to that. The whole she's consuming art, kind of a thing, but. Oh, we're erasing them, not stealing them, is what she says. We're taking specific paintings from a specific person, Astrid Rue, and we're erasing them, not stealing them.
What does that even mean?
Well, he eats them, but he's like just eating the paint off because he chews up the canvas and the canvas is left behind. So I don't know.
I don't like it.
Yeah, it's just, I don't, not happy with it, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I wanted more than what it was.
That's why I didn't grab it. I had a feeling.
Yeah. Wanted to give it a try, though. So, alrighty. Any other books you want to talk about?
Just one more, it's another book that ended. It's, it wrapped it up. Equilibrium, which is one of my favorite films, a cult film. And it's a little sequel of some sorts where we have a little bit different characters. We still have the main character from the Equilibrium film, but he's come out of hiding and he's helping the rebellion fight against the Gramerton organization. And we pretty much see a lot of carnage, a lot of death occur, like we saw in the first, like in the film, like we saw in the film. It happens here. A lot of people just die, and it seems like the only person left is always John, the main character.
Right.
It ended with him, being the only one left alive to be alive to suffer more. It seems like he's just a suffering character. He's killed in the name of the Gramerton organization. Then now he's actually fighting for the rebellion, and he still comes to the same conclusion: death each and every single time. So I liked it. It wrapped it up, I think, neatly enough. It didn't feel like it veered off too much from what the original film intended. So yeah, I like seeing American mythology produce these movies and then turn them into a comic. It wasn't bad. It's not something I would rave about. I get it purely for the fact that it's nostalgia, and I hope for the best when I read it. It was a situation where it came out to be enjoyable. it was a long break in between issue, which wasn't preferable for me.
Mhm.
But overall, I liked it.
Cool. Well,
Mhm.
sounds good. Yeah. Any indie-ish kind of news, or oh my gosh, there's books coming out we want to talk about, or
Well, I don't think we mentioned it last time about the Hellboy movie, did we? That it's got a
We didn't get a chance.
yes. So they're gonna relaunch Hellboy.
Is Ron Perlman gonna play? Because I'm not watching it.
no.
No, the
I'm
guy
not-
who plays the sheriff in in Strange Things.
Mhm.
In Strange Things. That's gonna be Hellboy.
I'm listening. Tell me more.
Well, that's what I know about that. It's gonna be rated R. It's gonna be rated R, and they're starting over.
Okay.
They're starting over.
And
Okay.
So
calling it the Red Queen or the
I hadn't heard that. Yeah, I hadn't heard that
Right.
part.
Because I don't know that they're picking any one book. I think they're going to pluck from a couple different things.
Yeah.
Will Ron Perlman make an appearance?
No, I don't think so.
I don't like this.
And I think
Ron
that was
Perlman and Totoro have nothing to do with it.
Yeah.
But
'cause I-
but Mike Mignola is on board. He's part of it. So I mean, it isn't like it's they sold it off to somebody else or something like that. So I know I'll end up seeing it. I'm a huge Hellboy fan. I love those Hellboy movies. They're my favorite comic book adaptation movies, to be quite honest. I think they're the ones that stay closest to capturing whatever the comic book that they came from had. So
We love Hellboy.
yeah, and I'm a huge Ron Perlman fan playing Hellboy. I can't imagine somebody else doing it other than the guy from Stranger Things. He does have that heavier jawline, which is part of the part of the Hellboy look. So
Yeah. I just really love Ron Perlman. I just really love him. I just want to see him do it.
Same here. And he says "ah crap" better than anybody else does. And you have to be able to be Hellboy. You have to say "ah crap" the right way, because if you don't, it's just not going to work. So
yeah, you know what? I guess I can give it a chance. I can stop being closed-minded.
Well, I think the biggest problem was with Del Toro and Perlman is it was just becoming such a high budget. They said this is going to be a significantly smaller budget film.
right.
Well, you know what? I do like that guy from Stranger Things. I like seeing him when he was playing crazy characters in Law and Order. So a lot of actors they get their start in Law and Order.
Yeah. So and it being a smaller budget isn't necessarily a bad thing, because there's lots of Hellboy stories and BPRD type stories that it's not huge. The whatever the thing is, it's the small kind of eerie thing in the background kind of stuff that you could clearly easily do and not have to make it some sort of a blockbuster thing. Because yes, Del Toro himself is expensive. Perlman probably doesn't come cheap either. Plus
with the rating, I think part of that was the idea that they wanted to tell more of a horror story too.
Right. Right. More on the scary, violent side, as opposed to funny humor where he's saving cats and getting punched in the face kind of thing. Yeah. So sure. Anything else?
I was hoping last show we were going to talk about American Gods, because
oh yes, American Gods.
Yeah, I've been enjoying it. I'm having
Yes, every Sunday we could spend an entire show talking about that.
Yeah, I was like,
probably.
Travis's electricity went out, and I couldn't talk to him about damn American Gods.
Yeah. So I think it's safe to say both me and Raz are liking American Gods. I haven't read American Gods came out this week in comic.
Did it? I didn't read it.
I haven't read it yet either, because I love this cover. This David Mack cover is super awesome with the whole leprechaun thing going on. But I'm really loving the TV show.
Oh yeah.
I'm not digging the comic, and a TV show makes the comic even harder to read, in my opinion, because the TV show is so visually rich. It just has so much and to me, this comic is very static. So
it pales in comparison, doesn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, but I mean, I don't know if you. I can't imagine not liking the show. I don't know. I don't know exactly what I compare it to, but you know, if you like any of other Brian Fuller's type work, for instance, if you liked Hannibal, if you liked
Preacher.
right, you like Preacher type stuff, it's a great, it's a really interesting show on Stars. That's the only downside is if you don't get Stars, you have to. I'm getting Stars through. I'm getting it through Amazon, so I can watch it on demand, kind of a thing, as opposed to calling up my cable company and getting it that way.
I do too. I have a Prime membership, so.
But it's very cool. Sometime, Rez, we should just do a hangout and talk just about that.
Yes, because I was like, oh my god, like I'm really enjoying it, and I'm like, I need to talk to someone about this.
Yeah. We'll do that. Besides the occasional tweet to me.
Yeah, because it's so random. I'm like, guys, what do you think about this?
Right. So, yeah, I don't know. It's really good. It's really good. It's really rich. They've added some stuff that wasn't in the that's not in the book. I think it works. I mean, you have some thoughts. They've already approved a second season, so I don't know what I think about that aspect of it, though. Yeah, Rez is excited by it. I don't know if I am. I like the idea because it's telling the story that's in a book, that it should be finite. There should be an end, a beginning and an end to it. And so I was kind of hoping it was just going to be a season and it would be done. It's kind of like the Handmaid's Tale that Hulu is telling.
I started, but I didn't finish or at all. I mean, I started, like, I turned it on and never went back to it.
And with it, they've got a second season also. So it makes me feel like, okay, we're just going to stretch the story out into I don't know what, as opposed to knowing they've got a beginning and an end and getting to that kind of thing. It's like, what are they filling it up with? Are they filling it up with something that's going to be important, or are they just going to start putting stuff in that just makes it fluffy and stretch it out longer than it needs to be? That's my only concern. You know, it's just like if a comic was 5 issues, they wrote a 5-issue story and people loved it enough, they decide, oh, we're going to keep writing it. And now they're just kind of telling, whatever, because they're making money, kind of thing. I don't know. So I have some.
Well, I'm okay. They keep Neil Gaiman on as a creative director, where he has all this input. As long as they keep him on. I mean, I feel like they're doing something similar to how they did Walking Dead. You know how they had Robert Kirkman put a lot of his input in. It started off in a way where it was just I don't want to say slow, but it wasn't as fast paced and as crazy as it is now, as it wasn't as theatrical as it is now. But they probably had the attention on, okay, we're gonna show the first season. If it responds very well, we're gonna show like a second season, and it may be like that, but of course to be on Stars.
But the thing is with Walking Dead is it's still an ongoing story. That's still telling a story in the comic books. It's not a finite thing. It's not an ended thing. Yeah. This is a contained book with a beginning, a middle, and an end.
Yeah.
How it all works and whatnot. And even with him being on as a creative consultant or whatever and stuff, if you add too much, it waters down. In my opinion, it waters down the work itself. I feel like. So I don't know. I don't know.
I'm hopeful.
Granted, it's a different medium, so they could tell it at a different pace. But like with The Walking Dead, what they also did is they changed the characters, right? I mean, there are characters that died immediately who are still in the show because they became fan favorites. People liked them, and so they invested in them. I don't want them to change American God's story because suddenly somebody likes some random god that pops up for a few seconds. They decide that character is going to play a major influence in the rest of the show, and they change the story to do that. Then they shouldn't call it American Gods. Call it something else and make your own story. I guess it's part of how part of me feels about that. So I don't know, but as long as it's good and I'm enjoying it, I guess at the same time I don't care if it goes on for however long it goes on. Other than I don't like paying the extra price for the Stars that I don't watch anything else on. So there's that. So.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I hear you.
Like I said, we should do a hangout where we just talk about that, because otherwise we're gonna keep poor Mike up for forever, and people are gonna be on a 7-hour show. So I don't want to do that. Any other indie type news? You think you want to talk about?
I haven't checked the solicits out because you already know my conundrum.
Right.
With DCS, I'm thinking of leaving them. I
Yeah.
think I'm going to probably go with another company or maybe go to the comic shop. I'm just not pleased with this. I thought I gave them enough time to rectify sending me my free comics for Free Comic Book Day. They didn't do that, so I kind of feel like they just don't value my patronage, and so
Yeah, that's really strange because anytime I've had an issue with them, I've typically been able to just email them and I get a response pretty quickly to get it resolved. So yeah, I don't know. That's strange. And that's really strange because you clearly you buy a lot from them. You buy a lot of product. You'd think that they would be a little more keen to.
Well, they'll see when they lose me how much.
Yeah.
How much? Because I mean, I was buying, I was buying a lot of comics. I think a lot of people know, I'm getting 44 plus comics every week for a while. Obviously that adds up to something. I mean, so they don't want my money. I'll have to give it to them.
Yeah,
I'm not pressed about
for
it.
Sure. I hear you. If I was having those problems and they weren't rectifying it for me, I'd be done too. Because there are even if you don't have a comic shop in your town, there are other places that that sell. I bought comics online from another company for years before I went to Discount Comic Book Service. Discount Comic Book Service is a little more organized than a lot of them are, but a little more consumer friendly as far as picking my books and shopping for them. In your case, clearly not consumer friendly as far as if you have a problem, them fixing it. But there are lots of other places out there, that's for sure. So.
Yeah. I mean, when they're telling me every single time to send them a picture, I'm like, do you see how much books I have? And I get them weekly, and you want me to pull aside books just take pictures? First, you get back to me a week later, and then you want me to go back pretty much now 2 weeks and take pictures of stuff that I emailed you immediately about to tell you that.
I'd send them links of your videos and say, here they are. So
yeah. I wrote them an email. I just haven't sent it, but I wrote the email out and I let them, give them peace of my mind. So
Yep.
I just kind of felt bad because I was like, do I really need to tell them about the YouTube channel? But yeah, since I do record me unboxing it, I think that probably would be helpful.
Yep.
They survive on word of mouth.
Yeah.
They need to fix the problem. If they've sent you bad books or not sent you the books that you've ordered or whatever the case is, they need to rectify the problem.
Mm-hmm.
Or explain to you how it's your fault and not their fault. Good luck. So they do. That's their business. That's their business, and they need to do that. So
yeah, for sure.
Fix it or people move on, for sure. And I guarantee you, if I had lots of problems and they didn't fix them, I'd be done too. So
yep,
totally get you. Alrighty, I think we'll call it a night. We've been on for almost 3 hours now, so might be time for us to be done. Appreciate y'all people who've been hanging out with us. There's like a constant flux of of a group of people who are always on. We always appreciate that. Appreciate you guys that comment in the comments. Always appreciate it. Also, for those of you who watch after the fact, that's awesome. Much appreciated there. Also, what do we miss? What didn't we talk about that we should have talked about? Clearly there are 1,000 Marvel comic books that we don't read. What are we missing that was awesome that came out this week that we should have been on top of? What are your thoughts on the button? Am I totally off my rocker? It's the best thing ever, and you're amped for the 2 minutes to Doomsday Superman thing after you read this or not? Let me know. Let us know if you're totally cool with every Marvel event book. They add an extra book to it at the end of it. That's no problem for you or not? We always like to hear that stuff. So let us know, or whatever else. What's your favorite cookie? I don't know. Any party words? Anybody got anything they want to add to the? See there, Ryan C. No, I agree. The button was utter garbage. There you go. See, Ryan can come on the show anytime he wants to. He agrees with me.
I think I agree with you too. I got that one lenticular cover. And that was the only good thing about it. I mean, it was cool to look at, but then once you get into the guts part, I was like, what the? What?
Yeah. Basically. All right, we'll go back on that again. I spent 20 minutes complaining about it the first time, so really good. Anyway, thank you guys for coming on and talking comics with me. Always appreciate you guys coming on and chatting. If you're wanting to be on the show, get a hold of me. Let me know. We'll see what we can work out and have you on. And with that, we'll call it a night. Till next time. Have a great one, everybody.